No, empty. your side or did you?
Ja, olsun.
Okay. Last thing also. Thanks for your
When did you get make your work this morning?
Yeah, yesterday I was watching meeting. They said, "Oh, this is Junior."
This morning was much.
Two withdrawals. Brandon and
Thank you.
The course is going to be an anti-clockwise course around the lake here at Cradle Moon. The lap length is about 3 kilometers and a 100-meter long portage with good vantage points along the course. The venue itself is beautiful, clean water, set in a wildlife reserve. So there's wild animals, lots of antelope, zebra and giraffe running around, and yeah, lots of beautiful clean water and an interesting course. Gauteng Marathon Champs is taking place 2 weeks before SA Champs, first weekend in June, and yeah, we're expecting a good turnout. We please encourage guys from other provinces to come along and have a good look at the venue and experience some good racing up here.
Well, a warm good morning and welcome from the Cradle Moon Reserve here for the final event on the final day of the South African Marathon Champs for 2019. It's been 3 days of fantastic marathon racing at this brand new venue situated inside this nature reserve. An absolutely sensational setting in its broader context. I was woken up this morning by zebra and springbok that were knocking at my front door wondering if I was up on time. So that was my alarm clock this morning. It's a sensational place. And the course that's been set up here has been very different in terms of marathon racing, but it's provided a real spectacle for the spectators. And I think the racers have enjoyed the intensity of the racing. It's a slightly shorter lap than you would normally experience for a marathon race, but that's certainly added to the excitement. There have been shorter laps, there have been more portages, and it certainly provided for a riveting 2 days of racing. This morning was taken up by the K2 racing for the veterans and masters classes, and that too was slightly warmer than it has been for the previous 2 days, but it's been great fun. This is the racing format we're enjoying here. The Cradle Moon Lake is a long, thin dam, so the start is roughly where our commentary point is, and just to the right of the start is the dam wall here. We're on the Crocodile River, and there's a sensational vantage point where the spectators can pack into the restaurant on the deck and watch all the action. The start lap heads up to the top turn can. You then take a left-hand anti-clockwise turn down to the bottom. You then wind yourself around. You see you head back into the dam to turn around the white turn can simply because there is a right-hand bend in the river. And that first lap is going to take you back down to the 3 turn cans in front of the dam wall. So once that start lap is completed, due to the short laps here, the paddlers then set off on one complete lap for lap 2. So no portage on lap 2. They then do one complete outside lap of the dam here at Cradle Moon. Take them all the way down to the dam wall. They go around those cans, and then after the second lap they embark the laps which include the portages. So laps 3 onward are going to be the laps that include the portages, and the portages right in front of the spectators here. So that's a quick look at the portage lap, all the way up to the top turn can. Back down, it's slightly shallower at the top, and the paddlers have learned that tactically there are lines that need to be raced up there, but it's certainly a beautiful, deep and fast course. You head back into the portage, and the portage is interesting. It's an undulating, uneven portage. It's a jetty takeout and a jetty put in. The jetty takeout is quite a small, compact jetty, and remember today we're looking at K2 racing. So we're expecting quite congested bunches, certainly in the beginning part of the race, and those takeouts in particular on that short jetty are going to be sporty. After the put-in on the final lap, as you'll see on your screen right now, it's the short little sausage lap where you go around the 3 bottom turn cans against the dam wall. You then shoot upstream through the trees, and then that tactically critical turn around the 3 turn cans before you head down into the home straight in front of the crowds here, and that's what's going to be deciding the finishes and the medals at the end of every position. My name's Dave McLeod. It was a pleasure taking you through the live stream yesterday, and thank you to everybody that followed it. It was a thrill to see that there were thousands of people from every corner of the world that were following the K1 live stream yesterday, and what a race we had as we returned Andy Burkett as the national champion, and Hank McGregor managed to get hold of that silver medal and what should be the second place in that national team. But that was by millimeters, thanks to an incredible showing from Nicky Naughton. It was a fantastic finish to the race. Clint Cook was in there. He was cramping. I suspect he was cramping. He was looking so uncomfortable on that final lap, despite the fact that he was strong as a horse throughout the 30 Ks. And it was only the final lap where the body gave in and the cramps prevented him from contesting that end sprint. Joining me at the commentary point today, once again, is our former world champion, Anstott, who, after racing the K1 Masters race, raced Case 2 this morning, so you're fully entitled to pop in the odd yawn if you want. Welcome, Ant. Good to have you here. Another beautiful winter's day here at Cradle Moon.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's warmed up nicely. I must say, when we arrived this morning, there was just frost everywhere. It's one of the first times I've had to climb on my boat, and there was a layer of ice on the inside of the cockpit. I was actually slipping on the ice. That was a bit ridiculous, but it's beautifully warmed up now. It's looking great. I think the guys are going to have a great race.
Okay, so on the water right now, warming up are the K2 senior men. Now, let's just have a look through this and we're going to have a lot of fun here today. Clinton Cook and Brandon van der Walt. We'll chat more about them a little bit later, but this is a partnership that goes way back to school days. I think they jumped in the K2 when they were 10 years old here at Parktown together. Clinton was so good yesterday, and those cramps that we saw him just stiffen him up and take him out of contention on that final lap, hopefully are not going to come back and dog him today. Boat 632, Alex Messina and Louis Hutting. We're going to tell the Louis Hutting story. That going to be a factor boat for you?
Yeah, I think they're a great combination. They definitely paddle well together. They're both very good sprinters as well as marathon paddlers, so they're going to have a turn of speed on them. So, yeah, they're going to be awesome. But, yeah, just looking at this lineup, it's going to be really exciting.
Okay, Colin Letwab and Peter Chisano, Khatiso Klathatsi and Zamum Zondi. And then that boat that I think is going to be front and center today. Nicky Naughton, who had an unbelievable K1 race yesterday, and Stu McLaren, whose race was ended, still beating himself up over that. It was just an overzealous attempt to try and get away in that portage, and a swim ended his race. Pedigree crew, and Anders Hart and Dom Naughton, part of their training partner down in the Western Cape. So you've got 2 boats critically from the Western Cape, and they might just fight together and hunt as a pack.
Yeah, they could definitely. We saw that even the bond yesterday between Stu McLaren and Nick Naughton, who trained together. Now we've got 4 guys and 2 boats. So it definitely does help to have teammates on the water. And they might not exactly help each other, but they're not going to go either way to disadvantage the others and put them under pressure at a tricky time.
You take boat 637.
Hank McGregor and Andy Burkett. So they're the reigning world champions. They've got such pedigree. Hank with, I think it's 11 world titles now. Andy Burkett, current double world champion. It's hard to beat these guys on paper or on the water, actually. But it's always exciting watching them race. There's such control on that boat. They just know what to do and when to do it at the right time. So yeah, they're going to be awesome as usual.
Okay, Sibusiso Chwae and Zalen Klankla Mbala racing alongside Moshe Ngomani and McDonald Nkosi. Dan Jacobs was still trying to find a partner, so we'll see if both 640s on the water. Now, interesting, Wayne Jacobs and Hamish Lovemore. That's going to be a good boat to watch today.
Yeah, so Hamish is a very strong paddler. He was a very strong junior. He's come through the ranks and really paddling well. Wayne Jacobs is an interesting one. He's a sub-vet, but he's really put in a lot of hard work up here in Joburg, and he's come up to a level where he's actually jumped in a boat with Hank McGregor this year and won the Umkomaas Marathon, and they're heading over to compete in the Stellar Descent later in the year. So Wayne has got himself to a level which is really, really competitive. So the two together, I think they're going to be pretty awesome.
And you can read into Wayne why Clinton Cook is going so well, because they're part of the setup that's training so well up here.
Exactly, yeah. So I'm sure they do a lot of training together, and yeah, it seems to be working. Whatever they're doing is working.
Now, if you're looking for a crew to disrupt today, the juniors, Dave Evans and Hamish, have decided that they're going to race today, and they've got one thing on their agenda. They want to be noticed. They want to rattle some big cages today.
I think it's awesome to have the juniors in the race. They showed us how strong they were yesterday, and that they were pretty much uncontended. Obviously, there were some discrepancies on the porches. We had a few guys falling and knocking themselves out of contention, but they are a world-class crew. So it's going to be great to see them racing against the top seniors, and I think they're going to hold their own. I think they're going to be there. It's going to be interesting to see how long they're there, but I wouldn't be surprised to see them on the bunch most of the way.
So there's Stu McLaren and Nicky Naughton in the boat together. A little bit before that, there's a late entry from Alan Housen and Luke Durr getting onto the water. Alan wanting to do some miles before he gets onto the berg. Louis Hutting on the water there. I'm interested to see how this race is going to go, because it's Louis with Alex Messina, who we know is super strong. We saw him put up his hand at the World Marathon Champs in Maritzburg and just race with a heart bigger than that little body seemed to contain. And I'm excited to see that. Here's the crew that we're talking about. If you want to track history and you're looking for a fairy tale, Stomach and Clinton, such good banter, such good friends. That's a crew where they just jump into the boats. They can be out of the boat for years together.
They just have such a good rhythm. They paddle so well together. They understand each other. Even when they're not fit, the boat goes well. And I know they've both been training quite hard. Brandon's been training hard down in Maritzburg, and Clint up here, we saw him yesterday. And with their history and how well they combine, they're definitely going to be a factor on a boat to watch.
Brandon is in great shape. He's also the canoeing master at Maritzburg College, and he's just rubbing off all that enthusiasm on the next generations of youngsters. I must admit, Clint was bantering with Brandon this morning. At school, he was known as Stomach. He will tell everybody now that's because he's got a rippling six-pack. But Brandon, as a lighty, had a proper paunch, which is why he's still called Stomach to this day. And they were bantering about how heavy he was in that very first race they did on the Vaal when they couldn't even get the rudder of the boat to sit in the water. So you see where Brandon has come from and where he's got to now. And that fairly ominous-looking lineup of K2s comes down to the start pontoon. We've got about a minute to go to the start. Tactically, how would you see this happening?
I think there's so many fast boats that I think we're going to have a similar race to yesterday. A big group forming initially, and then just the guys playing it out and biding their time until the first portage, and then we might see some action from there. But I think we're going to start off with a big bunch like we had yesterday.
That's Anders Hart and Dom Notten nearest to us here. Anders Hart also really keen to prove a point at this year's champs. And the next generation of stars, as Stu McLaren pointed out to me, means you've got to have a lot of patience if you want to wait in the queue in South African paddling to get to the top, because there is a huge amount of talent sitting on that starting lineup.
It's just great to see the youth. We spoke about it yesterday. 30 seconds to the starts. But it's the young guys coming through, they're just so powerful, and they're chomping at the bit, waiting for an opportunity to break through in the senior ranks.
See Andy Burkett and Hank McGregor sitting second from the end in that lineup. As you saw from Hank yesterday, Hank sitting in the front of the boat, they chopped and changed that over the years. Andy has driven some of the boats, Hank has driven some of the boats. It doesn't seem to make a hell of a difference.
The combination seems to work both ways. They're both good drivers, they're both good powerhouses in the back, so it works well both ways.
Technically, all those rudders are meant to be touching the back of the start pontoon. We haven't got holders to ensure that happens, but you can see Stomach's actually the guilty party there. Brandon van der Waalt's got to come back a little bit, but you can see the disruptors are ready to make life difficult for some of the established big names in South African marathoning. And there they go. It's a good solid start from Hank McGregor and Andy Burkett. That green boat is scorching straight to the front. Fantastic start from the world champion.
And the juniors
K2
right up there as well.
Wow.
Hey, the juniors have got some speed off the line.
And they go to the front. Hank is quite happy. He's proved his point.
Yeah, it was just a nice little test for Hank and Annie just to see how they're feeling, and they proved that they've got the speed off the line, and that gives them a bit of confidence for the rest of the race. And hopefully the upper hand, when there's any big moves that need to happen, they can cover them or make some nice moves of their own.
And as we saw from Hank McGregor yesterday, he's done this so many times. He knows when it counts and when it doesn't count, and he's happy to chill and if need be just lurk in the background, just to make sure that he keeps his nose dry and stays out of the traffic. He knows exactly what's needed and when he can afford to chill. A lot of moving going on in that group at the moment, Ant.
It looks like
Louis Hutting's gone to the front with Alex Messina.
We've got
So
Alan Houston on the far side there on the first wave.
So there we have it. The men are up on the start of their first start lap. Now let's have a look at the ladies' race, because this is where things get really interesting here. Going to jump a little bit out of sequence here, because the Australian girls who raced as juniors, they're part of the development of Australian canoeing. They've elected to come and race again. They want to race as much as they can. But here we go, Bridget Hartley and Christy McKenzie. That's got to be the boat to shadow the whole way through, 5-6-4.
Yeah, they're a very strong boat. Bridget showed us yesterday. Christy also, she didn't paddle yesterday, so she's going to be strong today. And Christy, she showed herself on the world circuit as well as a very strong doozy paddler. And sitting with Bridget, I think they're going to have a solid race. They're a very strong combination.
Never ever forget that doozy finish when they dropped Jenna Ward and Van der Kisley. And the world would have said Van der Kisley and Jenna will drop you in the dust, and they did the exact opposite. Kaida Purchase and Jenna Ward, much expected from them today.
A very tried and tested combination, so it's nice to see them in the boat again together. They won that silver medal at the World Champs, I think it was 3 years ago now. Kaita was still a junior, I think, back then, so it's great to see them on the line paddling together, and Kaita won the under 23, Jenna's consistent, so we're expecting great things from them today.
See, some of the ladies have actually withdrawn. We're looking at the ladies on the starting lineup. I know Melissa van Rooyen raced this morning, and Tracy Ullerman is not feeling 100%, so they've withdrawn out of the starting lineup. Some of the other women's K2s coming up to the starting pontoon, so it's not going to be the full quota as entered earlier in the day. other interesting crew to watch, Ant, is going to be Melanie van Niekerk and Bianca Bevitt up from the Western Cape, because that is also a super season combination.
Exactly. You can never discount the Cape crews. They train hard in the Cape. They have long races like the Berg River, and they've got a lot of surf ski races, and they work hard. Hey, so watch Bianca and Melanie. I think they're going to be pretty awesome.
And Bianca is tough. She really is tough. She's got a heart of a lion in there. We were reminiscing last night about the PE to East London, and the one day when Woody Cape surf was so huge that the entire field had to walk 8 Ks. There were 2 paddlers that got out. One of them is Bianca Bevitt. So she's got a massive heart. So 562 at the top is Sarah Evans and Holly Spencer, one of the local women's crews. They're going to be starting a light year away from everybody else. So plenty of space for the women to charge up on that first start lap. Been an interesting race as well, because chatting to Bridget Hartley, she was saying she was super conscious during her K1 race yesterday that she had a big K2, and she had the ability and the control over the race to be able to throttle things back and make sure that she had some gas left in the tank for today. So the women's K2s are under starters orders. Bridge in the back of that boat. She's happy to let Christy do the driving.
Yeah, technically Christy's very good on the bunch, so it's also nice to have a strong powerhouse in the back of the boat, and it can work really well as a combination. But yeah, no lack of experience for Christy McKenzie in the front of that boat.
Jenna Ward and Kaida Purchase are going to be starting right alongside them. Then it's going to be Emily Rourke and Erin Blanche, the Australians, and then nearest to us in the camera is Bianca Bevitt and Melanie van Niekerk. Melanie in the back of that boat, Bubbles doing the driving. And again, you've got to look at that 1-2. Everybody's thinking about the race that happened yesterday, where Jenna Ward and Bridget Hartley were clearly quite entitled to lay claim to those 2 tickets for the K1 women's paddlers to China later in the year. But there's definitely an extra 2 seats on the plane to China to be had here, and there they go. It's a good solid start coming from Jenna Ward and Kaida Purchase in the blue boat alongside them. It's a good solid start from Bridget Hartley and Christine McKenzie, and they are immediately going to the front. Bianca Bevitt and Melanie van Niekerk, the only boat at this stage of the game capable of staying with them. And that field is kind of sorted in the first 20 strokes.
It seems like, yeah, that should be the top 3, nice and early on. It still looks like there isn't a boat pulling in the women's. They're still neck and neck, just testing each other out. Bianca's actually the smart one. They're sitting on the wash, conserving energy in the beginning. But neither Jenna or Christy has chosen to come across and jump on the wave. And there we go. I think Christy's just dropped back onto the wave now.
Excited to see Kaida Purchase out there. She's also had a rough couple of weeks when it's come to illness, and it's good to see her back to 100% and just hungry to race today. She's fresh. She's going to be an engine sitting in the back of that boat.
Yeah, shame. She's also struggled a bit with a bit of a virus, and she was also doubtful whether she would race this weekend. But she's managed to string a good few weeks of training together the last few weeks, and she showed us in the under-23 race that she's a force to be reckoned with.
Bianca Becker and Melanie van Niekerk both fresh today. I know their priority has literally, they would target one of those first 2 spots. They would love to get onto that plane to China in October and prove what they're capable of doing. We've seen them do it over and over again, particularly down in the races in the Western Cape, where there's a hotbed of talent at the moment when you compare it to Stu McLaren's and the Nottons and the great work that Pete Cole's doing with that Orca squad. So the women are off at the start of their first lap. Let's catch up with the men's, and it is still a big bunch together with Louis Hutting and Alex Messina up at the front with Hank McGregor and Andy Burkett. Everybody's in there still, and
yeah, it looks like it. I can't see no one missing at this stage, so it looks like the main contenders are there.
Bit of a move coming up on the outside there, but
it's the juniors out on second wave, I think, at the moment, on the right, or down first wave. Second, yeah.
So the crew that everybody is going to be shadowing is probably the most known quantity in the race, because they are the reigning world champions. Look at how relaxed Hank is in there. Everybody is just sort of literally tacking in alongside them. Second from left, you'll see the crew of Brandon van der Walt and Clinton Cook. So Brandon van der Walt and Clinton Cook. Brandon, as we mentioned earlier, is one of the schoolmasters and in charge of canoeing down at Camp Swift in Pietermaritzburg, where Maritzburg College is right on the banks of the river. And Clinton Cook, who, as we mentioned before the race got underway, just raced his heart out He's at the center of the training camp. So, I mean, and these two guys, it's such a cool story because it goes way, way, way back to Parktown and school days. So while these guys come down at the bottom of their first lap, let's catch up with some of the awesome history between Brandon van der Walt, a.k.a. Stomach, and Clinton Cook. Brandon, this combo goes way back, doesn't it? Like way, way back.
Yeah, back when men were men, we used to race together. It started off back when we were, 14, we started, yeah. So it goes back a long way, and it's so cool to be back in a boat together. So yeah, hopefully we can reheat cold coffee today and and make magic.
You're probably the most experienced in terms of years of the combos that you're going to be getting on the water. Is it one of those combos that just clicks when you get in a boat again?
Yeah, it's fantastic, because you know how each other function. It's when Clint wants to go, I can feel it, and when I want to go, Clint can feel it. So when things kick off, it's not a matter of waiting for the backhook to get going. As it happens, it happens. So it's so cool.
Go back into the day, he was called Stomach for good reason, wasn't he?
Yeah, look, I think we were about 12 or 13 years old, and we did Val in a double, and we probably shouldn't have even been in a full-size double. And I just remember sitting in the front with the nose up the whole way. So I was probably, at the time I was probably like 40 kilograms or something. So yeah, he's done well over the years, and I'm proud of him. So yeah, it's been good.
Question for you, you've had a proper weekend, and I could see you were hurting on that final lap of the K1 race.
Yeah, yesterday's race, look, it didn't go according to plan in terms of team selection. I would have loved to have been on that team, but you are racing basically number one and number two in the world, and I gave it my everything, and I was super chuffed. I left everything all on the water, and yesterday was yesterday. Today's a new day, and I'm going to give it everything I can in the back of the boat.
Tactically, I think this race is, because everybody's feeling it a bit, this is altitude. I think tactically this might be a real cat and mouse race.
Yeah, everyone's been asking for predictions on the race and how it's going to go, and what double or what combination is going to do what on the water. I think with Dave Evans and Hamish McKenzie, the two juniors racing in the senior race, they've got nothing to lose except for getting in the way. So they're definitely a lot more agile, so they're going to be pushing the pace on the portages, which could stretch out the bunch quite a bit for the couple hundred meters after the portage. But I think, after watching Hank and Andy's race yesterday, they're quite content with just sitting on the wave. And then obviously you got the dynamic of Stu McLaren and Nicky Naughton, who've got proper power and aren't afraid of an interval. So they'll go, and obviously you got the ground of Louis Hutton and Alex Messina. So each combination's got its own, sort of highlight. So we'll see which highlight stands out at the end of the day. So yeah.
Most of all, boys, have fun today.
Thanks so much, Dave.
And the one thing they do, Ant, is they have a lot of fun in the boat together. And that helps, especially if you've got a long 30 Ks to grind together.
Yeah, it's so important. I've always said a happy boat is a fast boat. So they definitely will be fast just because they're happy and enjoy spending time together.
I see on the turn there, Dom Naughton and Anders Hart cutting it very close. This is a big bunch now, but no intensity here. Nobody's really putting their hand up.
It looks like Hamish Lovemore and Wayne Jacobs moving to the front for the first time as the group forms around them.
Stu McLaren and Nick Naughton happy just to sit there and stay out of trouble. Now up at the front there, Alex Messina and Louis Hutting. Just so stoked to see Louis back up doing what he does best.
It is awesome, yeah. Louis was one of our top juniors and top under 23s, and he was very unfortunate with quite a serious hand injury. Actually, in a woodworking accident, he cut off a few of his fingers, and they managed to reattach his fingers, and it's taken him at least a year to get back to paddling, and he's worked hard. It's been probably about 10 months since he started paddling again, and he's got himself up to a very competitive level quite quickly, but it's been hard work. His hand isn't quite it's not the shape it should be, so it's a bit tricky for him, but he's hungry and he's determined, and he's not going to let it hold him back at all.
I'll give you a very vivid image of Louis Hutting in 2017 at Kampsdrift when the World Marathon Champs was held in South Africa. Louis is also an amateur photographer, a very good amateur photographer, and there he was sitting on one of the pontoons taking pictures with that hand of his in that grotesque big cast with big pins and wires, trying to hold the fingers in place as everybody hoped that the nerves would reattach. And at that stage, he didn't know. He didn't know if he would ever be able to hold a paddle again, let alone be able to get into a boat. To see Louis back up here, racing competitively, and then pulling the bunch on the first lap of Marathon Champs is just for everybody who knows Louis, and he's the nicest guy, one of the really good guys. To see him back, it's just a fairy tale come true, and I think he will have maybe a disproportionate amount of support from the bank.
Definitely, and it's great when someone comes back from a setback like that, and he's really worked hard. It doesn't come easily, so he's really worked hard to be here. And let's hope he gets back to the form that he had before and even stronger. And he was really solid sprinter on the sprint course too, so let's see if he finds his sprinting passion again.
So there we have it, the women's race and their 3 boats together. Bridget Hartley, Christine McKenzie, Bianca Bevitt with Melanie van Niekerk, and Jenna Ward and Kaida Purchase. So very quickly down to 3. So that's, I suspect, is going to be the podium sorted. And it'll be interesting to see who first puts their hand up. So Jenna and Kaita are also having a lot of fun. It's a combination that was only confirmed relatively recently. The others were given going into this, Melanie and Bubbles, who have been targeting this for a while. So it'll be interesting to see how they go. Remember, Jenna really had to work hard yesterday, even when it became obvious that the final lap was going to be the decider in their K1 race. I mean, Jenna gave it to Bridget properly for the duration of that race. And it was long and hard.
She had to, yeah.
She will be carrying that going into today.
Yeah, Jenna and Kaita, they obviously they're tested combination, and you can just see how smoothly they go together. That stroke is almost identical. Their arms moving at exactly the same time.
And they're 2 girls that have a lot of fun, and they were super chilled this morning. So let's catch up with how these 2 girls were feeling before they got on the water today. Jenna Ward, Kaida Purchase.
Kaida, was there any doubt about this combination? I know it was the last senior women's boat entered.
There's always doubt when you're paddling with Jenna. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I guess I've been sick with hepatitis, so it was pretty much to expect Jen to know to paddle with me was a bit of a ask. So she said, let me just see how I feel, and then let me race K1, and we'll play it by ear. So that's what we did.
So the obvious question is, how are you feeling though?
A lot better than I was, but I'm still on medication and that, so I'm recovering slowly, but hopefully everything goes well today when we race. But yeah.
Jen, this is a combination that we know about. It works, so it's one that you can easily just say, Keats, let's go.
Yeah, I mean, even if we haven't paddled together for over a year, we can get back in the boat and it feels like we've been training together all the time. So we're really comfortable together, and we know that our combination works, and I think that's what we work with. So we're excited to race today.
Simple questions each. What does Kaita bring to the boat?
Oh, she's the brains. I'm just steering. She's telling me what's happening at the back and what we should do. And yeah, she's super strong as well. And like I said, we combine so well. She compromises if I need her to do anything. And I actually sometimes have to tell her, just relax, we're okay on the wave. So yeah, she gives it 110%, and that's what counts in the K2.
From your perspective, what does Jenna bring to the boat?
Everything. I mean, why am I even there? No, brains and definitely experience. Like, it's not even a question. Just for me, one of the best female marathon drivers, because she's just tactic-wise and just knows exactly what's going to happen 10 steps before it even happens, which is great.
And you must be looking forward to the chance to testing this crew again at a world level.
Yeah, I mean, it's been basically 3 years since 2016 was our last time we properly gave it 6 in our double, and we managed to pull a silver off at World Champs. So hopefully, if we make the team, we can try and match that.
I hope it goes well. Have fun today.
Thank you. Thanks.
Good mates, and good to see the boat going so nicely. But having a look at this and the visuals while we were listening to that interview, that's a messy number. That 3, and I must say that Bubbles and Melanie are in the awkward position here. And what I'd like to do is, I know there are a lot of people that were watching the live stream yesterday and were asking some questions which suggested that maybe they're not familiar with marathon. So forgive us if we do go back to real basics, but 3 boats in a marathon bunch is an awkward number.
It's not too bad. It's better than 5. At least you have the option of sitting on the front wave or on the half diamond like Bianca's chosen to do at the back there. Generally, half diamond is a little bit more effort, but I think she chose to be there because she knew the turn was coming up, and she didn't want to be disadvantaged and squeezed out. But yeah, now we see them moving to the front for the first time. We know these girls are tough. It's not easy training in the Cape, especially through winter. It's very windy, it's cold, it's rainy, and only the tough paddlers rise to the top. So yeah, we know they're hardcore. They're probably the kind of girls that don't get tired. They're consistent, and they can just keep pushing all the way through.
Equipment on the water, and I think that's the only Vida that's being raced here. Those boats have been around for a while, but I know Bubbles and Melanie feel comfortable in that, and that's all that counts.
Yeah, there were a few Vidas that came into the Cape a few years ago. It was definitely the most popular boat down there, and a lot of the Cape guys were paddling them. And the thing with a good quality boat, like I said yesterday, is that they last and last. So even though the boat might be old, there's definitely nothing wrong with it. It's fast, it's light, it's rigid, and it's doing for them exactly what they needed to do.
Christy and Bridget looking very composed as we now get on to the front wave on the left of Andy Burkett and Hank McGregor. All the main players are in that setup there. Bit of jostling going on as they come around the turn canyon. Remember, this is the second lap. Hank now chilling. You can see him putting his juice bag over his neck right now. Just letting somebody else go to the front. Now everybody wonders what role they have to play, who has to go to the front. The juniors are not afraid to put their hands up early on this race.
No, they're going to have to work hard to be there. They know how to stay out of trouble. They know they go well together. They've got a good grind. They've got a bit of zip. And yeah, they seem to be positioning themselves well in the group at the moment. There was a bit of a build-up of paddlers going around those boys there, and they've chosen to try and stay out of trouble and ease their way to the front and make sure they can avoid any future situations like that where boats start getting squeezed.
Stu McLaren, Nicky Naughton looking very comfortable there. To have somebody of the experience of Stu McLaren sitting in the back of the boat and doing exactly what Stu's doing there. He's just running a rule over the rest of the bunch, looking at everybody, picking up any little clues, any little tips, any little weaknesses that might be able to exploit. I mean, he's a good guy. He's been around for a long, long time and has been a seasoned K2. He loves to tell everybody.
But we haven't actually paddled much in the boat together. But
energy in reserve after yesterday.
Yeah. Look, it was the plan. I mean, you obviously want to throw the kitchen sink at the K1s, but I mean, there's such strong guys there. There's sort of an outside chance whether you're going to sort of make it onto the team, and you just hope that you're there, right time, right place. I guess I was backing on the doubles, sort of being our ticket through to Worlds. But as you said earlier, it's going to be a tough race. There's some flipping good crews out there, and we saw yesterday, you never know what might happen. I mean, that's marathon racing, I guess. So yeah, just excited for today. Pity about the swim yesterday, but yeah, it's worked out quite nicely, I guess.
Have you dissected that swim? I'm sure you have in agonizing detail.
Yeah, I've started to get flashbacks from Marlow at Fish 2 years ago. I think you're in control in the race, and all of a sudden a swim comes and tumbles you. But yeah, I guess that's racing. You've just got to live with the mistakes and move on to the next day. But yeah, it was a bit sad watching the bunch paddle away, and sort of the cold water didn't help with the expression on my face, as you mentioned earlier. Yeah.
What does Nicky bring to this combo?
Oh man, he's just a beast. He's just a hardcore paddler, and that's just keen to really give it to those. I've had the privilege of paddling with some really, really strong guys, and of those situations today.
You have got some sort of seniority in a bunch, so you can tell the lighties where to get off if they're getting a bit edgy.
Dave, I'd argue differently. I mean, the politics on the water is a very different story. Seniority doesn't often kick through. But yeah, I guess there's seniority and then there's seniority. Yeah. I mean, they're not all equal. But yeah, hopefully we can throw our weight around a bit today and hopefully get a diamond or two. But yeah, we'll count them sort of good wins if we do.
Well, most of all, have fun, guys.
Cool, thanks so much.
Thanks.
Well, they certainly are having lots of fun. Stu McLaren and Nikki Norton back with the women's race right now. And Christy McKenzie and Bridget Hartley leading as they go around the turn cans. Very calm looking Jenna Ward and Kaida Purchase on their right. And the Cape Townians, Bubbles and Milani on the inside. So no changes over there and just rotating the pull. And at this stage, not much to read into it.
That's all they can do at this stage. They've got to do their time at the front, and to be accepted on a group, you have to do the work. Otherwise, people start getting a bit grumpy. So they're just going to keep rotating, and probably until at least the first portage.
The big difference here is you've got a couple of girls that have raced really hard, and we'll be looking at conserving reserves for what might be a close finish, and you've got a couple of girls that are very fresh who would like to keep the pace high and keep the intensity there.
Yeah, it's definitely a factor to consider, but I think as South Africans, we're a tough nation. We're used to multi-day racing, and we showed it as well with guys like Hank and Andy winning multiple medals, singles the one day, doubles the next day. So even though the girls have raced the day before, they're capable of doing that. It's not out of their reach.
It's been interesting to see how they've responded differently to the altitude and the dryness. Some of them have battled and some of them haven't been affected at all.
Yeah, I think altitude is a factor. It definitely hits you hard the first time you feel it, but you do adapt quite quickly. The body's an amazing thing. And in a longer race, I think you don't feel it as much. It's more at the top end, high intensity speeds where your lungs hurt and burn a lot more than they do in the longer stuff. So a marathon compared to a sprint, maybe not as bad, but it will be affecting them a little bit.
So Bridget Hartley and Christy McKenzie, the girls completing their second lap. That's their long lap. From now on in, they're going to be doing portages on the laps. And very measured, very guarded. Nobody really flexing their muscles. Jenna Ward and Kaida Purchase pulling at the front in that blue Nero of theirs. And as they go through the finisher, it does add a real sense of tension here. There's 3 boats, and you know every one of them will have come into and have made this trip up to Joburg hoping to book that plane ticket to China, and all 3 boats would be capable of taking it. So there's not going to be much quarter asked or given later in this race.
Yeah, and I just remember watching Bianca and Milani race last year in St. Francis. They were there until the end. They were solid, and I'm not going to write them off. They're a solid crew. But again, there's 3 very good crews here. But I think we're going to see these 3 sticking together right until the end sprint.
And Bridget Hartley, who has become such a dominant force in women's canoeing in South Africa, such an influential character, and still got this passion and this burning desire to do what she does best. Somebody who's really laid down a marker for women's canoeing, and I think if she could do one thing right now, she would love to sort of explode the number of women who are taking part in both sprint events and flatwater marathon events, and maybe tap into some of that hotbed of talent of young women who are coming through the school system at the moment and take them all the way through to this level. So start of lap 3 for the women, Jenna Ward and Kaida Purchase upping the pace just a little bit as they head up to the top turn can. This is the first of their portage laps. Meanwhile, at the top of the course, the men are going around the top turn can. They're going to be coming down for the portage, and that's going to be sporty, Ant, because there's that big group of men right now. And
it's just always so exciting to see such a big bunch. So much can happen. It's really technical, and there's always a lot going on in the bunch. We can see Nick Norton and Stu McLaren at the front now setting a decent pace, but still relaxed. Hank McGregor and Andy Burkett in their green boat just behind on the diamond. They're taking it easy. Brandon van der Walt and Clint Cook also looking very comfy on the first wash there. And on this side, we've got the youngster, Hamish Lovemore, with I'm not going to call him a bully because he's way younger than me. We've got Wayne Jacobs in the back of the boat there, also on the first wave. But yeah, the group's looking comfortable at this stage. Things are going to start heating up a bit. We've got the first portage coming up, so the guys are starting to think about positioning and where they need to be on the group as they lead up to that portage.
So the bunch very much together, and this is going to be interesting. The takeout, again, let's cover the ground we did yesterday. The portage takeout here is a jetty takeout, and the takeout is short. with K2s in particular, there is going to be a bit of patience and there is going to be congestion, and there are going to be boats that are going to have to sit and wait patiently for their turn to get onto that jetty.
Yeah, so it's really important for at least the first 5 boats to get to the jetty first. There's room for 5, maybe 6 boats to get out at the same time, but there's more than 6 boats here, so there's going to be 1 or 2 boats at the back who are going to be disadvantaged slightly. You're going to have to wait for the boats to get out before they can get running. But yeah, it is the first portage. If someone does have a bit of a bad portage, at least there is an opportunity to catch up afterwards.
Alex Messina and Louis Hutting trying to find some clean water out on the right-hand side of that bunch, and they're putting in a bit of an interval to try and get clear of the traffic as they come into the portage.
Yeah, so a very good move from Louis there. He was trapped at the back. He doesn't want to be one of those boats to a disadvantage having to wait. He wants to rather be one of the top 5 or 6 boats taking out. So they've done some hard work to come around the side, and I think it's hopefully going to pay off for them.
Nicky Naughton and Stu McLaren in position A. Brandon van der Walt and Clint Cook are going to be in a strong position. Clint had a choice every time to go long on the portages. I don't know whether he's discussed that with Stomach, but now they're coming into the portage. This is going to be no place for the faint-hearted. Stu McLaren and Nicky Naughton are going to be the first into the portage. They're out clean.
Nice and fast.
Lots of patience. No hot heads getting in the way. Hank McGregor, Andy Burkett in the green boat. No mistakes. Louis Hutting, Alex Messina out clean, and they're into this portage. All together, everybody out safe. And here they come through the portage for the first time. Stu McLaren, Nicky Naughton. Looking very comfortable. Hamish Lovemore, Wayne Jacobs. Great first portage from them. Hank McGregor and Andy Burkett going long, putting in right at the end of the portage. Good thinking, because they knew there'd be clean water to put in.
That's Hamish and Wayne that moved to the front again, putting the guys under a bit of pressure.
It's a little bit of a hobble from Alan Housen. That's not good news. They're right at the back. Luke Durr and Alan Housen. And Alan was not looking comfortable in that portage. I'm not sure if that was dead leg kicking in or whether he stood on something or whether he's carrying a niggle, but that's not good news. It was a slow portage and they've been shaken off the back of that bunch. So casualty number 1 on the final day.
Yeah, so Alan's normally by nature, he's probably the quickest. He's probably got the quickest splits across the land section here, watching him here. So yeah, shame something obviously unsettling him there a bit. But yeah, at the front of the race.
Oh, there's a look at it again. He looks like he stepped on. Yeah, it's dead leg, I think.
Yeah, his calf is just not working.
And what's happened there is this is a combination that was thrown together at the 11th hour. They were almost certainly scrabbling around to try and borrow a boat, so they will have had a couple of hours in sub-zero temperatures to set the boat up this morning. And you know what it's like, setting up the boat so that you can last 2 hours, and it is not a simple matter.
There's just nothing worse than a dead leg. So that seat is obviously pinching that nerve and not allowing the blood to get through, and he's just got no control of it. And there's nothing worse than trying to sprint at full pace when your leg is not listening. It's basically like having a peg leg. It's also not very good for your muscles either. Still got the juniors up there on the front where we've got Hamish McKenzie and David Evans still on that front wash, which is amazing. And on the other side, on the other first wave, we've got Nick Naughton and Stu McLaren on the right. And on the diamond, I think it looks like Clint Cook and Brandon van der Walt. So, yeah, nice, comfortable 4 there. Hank and Andy not looking too stressed at the back. They're very relaxed, as well as Louis Hutting and Alex Messina. And then Dominic Naughton at the back there.
And let's go back to the run into that portage, because you teased them by being the Bully and the young guy combination, but Wayne Jacobs and Hamish Lovemore, interesting combination. We don't quite know what to expect from the guys. So let's catch up with these 2 guys. Having really asserted themselves coming into that portage, as we see a strong surge up the left-hand side there. Let's catch up with Hamish Lovemore, Wayne Jacobs.
Wayne, big race. Everybody's looking forward to this, and I think it's going to be tight. What's your read on it?
It's definitely going to be a tight race. There's any number of boats could be up there right up until the last portage, so it's going to be interesting.
Tell me about this combination with Hamish.
It's a new combination. We've only been in the boat twice together, but it seemed to gel from the outset. So I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be good.
What does he bring to the boat?
Lots of speed, and he's got good experience at racing at the highest level.
Okay, Hamish, how did this come about? How did the partnership start?
Yeah, well, I was left looking for a partner about a month ago, and I was looking around in KZN, and Hank came to me and said, well, Wayne's got no partner in Joburg, and it would be stupid not to ask him. So I gave Wayne a call, and yeah, we're here now.
Okay, you've had a proper weekend.
Yeah, I've had a big race in my singles on, I think it was Saturday, 2 days ago. So yeah, I was happy to get a win there, and then a day's rest. I think I'm the only rested paddler for today. Well, no, there's one other K2 that got rested under 23s, but yeah, fresh for today.
Wayne, the coolest thing about this is the under-23s that are not afraid to rattle the big guys' cages.
Absolutely. We saw that in the K1 race yesterday. Some of the guys raced day after they raced their under-23 K1 and they were mixing it with the big boys, and it's good to see.
Portages are going to be fun today if there's a big bunch.
Going to be lots of fun. Less so for the old chaps at the back, but we'll try and hang in there.
Who's driving this boat, by the way?
Hamish, young back up front, is not scared of anything. So I'm just going to hang in and try and keep up in the back.
Backseat driving though, I think, tactically.
Yeah, but Wayne's got a huge engine, so it's non-stop go from him.
Most of all, have fun.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
Well, we didn't know what to expect from them, and they've certainly delivered the goods in the first quarter of this race. Now we're back at the women's race right now, and it's Christy McKenzie and Bridget Hartley that are taking up the pool. A very measured and deliberate-looking Bianca Bevitt in the front of that boat. I suspect this is going to be a race that's going to come down to that final lap and maybe that final portage.
Yeah, I think we're going to tell a lot about how the race could pan out from this first portage. If all the boats are pretty even, like we saw with Jenna and Bridget yesterday, they're very even, so not much was happening. There was no advantage or disadvantage. And here we'll see whether all three boats are as strong as each other and as quick as each other, taking out and putting back in. And let's hope they are, because that's going to make for an interesting race.
Well, look at their pedigrees. Bridget really impressed in the K1 race. She's clearly been doing a lot of work on her running. And Christy, we know from her doozy history, she has got a fantastic
Christy's the current
running
doozy
ability.
champion, 2019 doozy champion, so she's an amazing runner. So we know they're going to be quick. It's just going to be interesting to see how we haven't seen Kaita. Oh, we did under 23. She won the under 23. So the only ones we haven't seen yet is Bianca and Milani.
So Bridget shaded Jenna when it came to the running stakes on the portages. We'll have to see how the combination... Let's talk about combinations, because you hear these slightly alarming stories about people who get in the boat the day before a race. Good combinations take a long time to settle, and the one place where it really shows is takeouts and put-ins.
Definitely, yeah. It's got to be something that you practice. You do get the odd crew that can just jump in a boat and go well together, but spending time on the boat together, practicing those takeouts and put-ins continuously is definitely it's so necessary at this level of racing, because you don't want a disadvantage. You've got to be on a level playing field, or at least advantage by being slick in and out. And all these girls should have practiced a lot at jetties takeouts just like this to prepare for this race.
Christy McKenzie and Bridget Hartley are going to have the opportunity to pick their spot on the jetty because they're leading the bunch. Jenna Ward and Kaida Purchase are on the inside line. It's a slight right-hand turn, so if you are on the inside line, you have to slide your boat in, and because it's a short portage, you actually need to, especially in a K2, give yourself time to break and turn that boat. You can't just race in hot.
Yeah, the angle coming into this portage is actually quite nice, but you do still have to stop the boat as you come in. But Jenna's in a good position there. It's not any slower to be where she is right now. The only disadvantage should be as if Christy actually cut her tight and actually cut off so she couldn't get to the jetty. But these girls tend to race pretty clean, so that shouldn't be a factor. The only one who's maybe in not the best position right now is Bianca, but she'll more than likely just zip past on the left and go to the front of the jetty and will be just as fast as the other two boats.
So this is the first portage in the women's race, which is very quickly distilled to a three-way affair. Christy McKenzie and Bridget Hartley the first around that last little turn can.
Very interesting to see Bianca actually pull onto the inside now, because that's obviously a good place to be, but you can also be squeezed. But the fact that Jenna and Kaita have got the lead now, it actually does suit Bianca very well. And now Christy's on the outside, but the jetty's long enough for three boats. I don't think there's going to be any issues. There'll be enough space for all of them.
And Jenna's very mindful of the fact that Bubbles is trying to get the nose of that Vida in ahead of them on the portage. We did notice in the men that there was a lot of diplomacy. There was no desire to get anybody in any trouble in that first portage. But these girls have been quite competitive, more so than the men coming into this first portage.
Yeah, they are coming in really hard. I think the reason is that Bianca's actually not in the best position there as far as being squeezed is. But hopefully Jenna gives her some order and she won't be disadvantaged. But she's stressing about whether there's going to be enough space for her to get out there.
Bianca is still coming in hot to try and get to the portage. There's going to be a little bit of congestion. She's nudging her nose in against Jenna Ward and Kaida Purchase. That's going to benefit the two leaders because Christy McKenzie and Bridget Hartley have been able to get away. Bridget's dropped the back of her cockpit. Now, the scare here is that you're going to damage the rudder. Jenna's now carrying the boat on her own and dragging that runner, and please, heaven forbid, we see any rudder damage getting in the way of anybody's races here. But two of those three boats were dropped on their runners. Jenna now trying to make sure that she doesn't get forced up against the poles marking the edge of the portage. It's all been highly competitive. This is the sort of testosterone we normally expect from the men's bunch, but the women are showing it. The winners out of this tussle are definitely going to be Bridget Hartley and Christy McKenzie, but they're having to empty their boat, so whatever benefit they gained, they've lost. Gee, it's all happening on that
So
first
what's
portage.
happened now is Christie's boat is, Jenna and Kaita's boat is behind Bridget's tail, so they weren't even able to pull away. They had to wait for Bridget and Christie to get away. So very interesting. A lot happened on that portage actually. We could probably go back and dissect it section by section, but it's all back to normal now. 3 boats together, but it was actually quite an eventful portage.
It actually looked very nervy.
It was, and I think one of the reasons being was Bianca unfortunately was boat number 3 on the inside, and there isn't really much space for boat number 3, and that led to a lot of that congestion there. Bianca had to try and sneak under the arm of Kaita, and then it got caught on Kaita's arm when they're trying to get the boat out, and that's going to happen when there's 3 boats trying to take out in such a small area.
Let's look at that again, Ant, because the charge came from the Cape Girls. They first of all got under the paddles of Jenna Ward and Kaita Purchase. Initially the benefit was to Bridge, but then she dropped the boat. There's a second drop, and she drags the rudder of that boat. And
it's always very nerve-wracking seeing a boat drag like that, but these Nellos, the rudders are shaped really well. They can handle a lot of abuse. And then shame they had to squeeze through that gap there, which is really tight. They were frustrated after fumbling and being caught up with Bianca there. And then here again, Bridget and Christie, they have to stop and empty their boat. I don't know if the pumps aren't working properly or they just decided to do that. Now, what happens is Jenna's in. She's ready to go, but now Bridget puts her tail over the nose, so Jenna just has to wait. So, and the third boat, Bianca's also trapped. So everyone now is waiting for Bridget and Christie to go. Everything fully legal here. It's all allowed to happen, but it did slow up the whole bunch and allow them all to get back together again.
2.5 laps, and there was a lot of water in that boat. That in itself is a concern. Either malfunctioning pumps or there would be no other excuse. There's no wave, there's no wind.
Yeah, so it could be, I haven't really watched the techniques too closely, but there could be one of the girls who's lifting a lot of water. But what could have happened as well is when they jumped out, the cockpit could have tipped over and taken some water. So it could have been that. But let's hope their pumps are working cleanly and they're not going to have any issues with taking water along the way. But yeah, it is a flat water race. There shouldn't be too much water other than from a bit of splashing from the paddles. But it will be interesting to see if they have to empty their boat on the next portage.
Well, the one lesson we have learned from the last 10 minutes of watching the women's race is that this Cape crew of Bianca Bevan and Melanie Fanikek are ready to scrap. And if it means staying in contention by scrapping, then they're not afraid to throw everything into that.
They went for it. It was a bold move of Bianca to move onto the inside, coming around that last turn, heading up for the jetty. It might have been a bit safer to head for the right, but she was confident in what she could do, and that's why she decided to go for the inside. Brave move, and it shows that she's going to be racing hard.
So here's the men coming into the portage. Another big bunch. Hank McGregor, Andy Burkett, super clean and super fast out of the boat. That's well drilled. Everybody else is playing hatch-up. Alex Messina, Louis Hutting in a good position. Everybody's in there. Brandon van der Walt, Clinton Cook getting the boat up on their shoulders and tipping it over. Oh, just catching that. Crikey, that could have gone so wrong.
So still Nick Knott and Stu McLaren running to the front. They're looking comfortable. They're nice and slick. And I think the reason that Brandon and Clint put on the shoulder was to change sides so they get in on the right and avoid the congestion. And it's worked well for them. They're in on the right and they're going for it now.
And this might fracture the group because...
so we've got Nick Knotton and Stu McLaren working hard at the front there again.
They've got Hank McGregor, Andy Burkett right on their side.
And then Stu McLaren and Nick Knotton, I think they're on the first wave on the other side there. Oh no, they're pulling, sorry. And then we've got... it's Hamish Lovemore and Wayne Jacobs. They're the third boat there.
Louis Hutting and Alex Messina in 4. So the crowd being treated to a real spectacle here at the portages. It's a fantastic venue. You can see virtually 80% of the course. We've had a great morning of Masters racing. Just a quick heads up to the Masters that are watching this from the deck. They're quite entitled to go and have that ice cold one in their hand at this stage. The medal ceremony for the Masters is going to be taking after the senior men's and women's ceremony. So for the Masters that are waiting around for their medals, and they've worked hard for them, you'll be able to bask in the glory. The Masters medal ceremony is going to be taking place right now. So correction to that, Masters, if you want to present yourself for the medal ceremony, you're going to have to unseat yourself from your spot in the shade. Head down to the podium, please.
Yeah, as we're just watching Hank McGregor and Andy Burkett make their way to the front now, looking comfortable, looking smooth. The boat's going well. And the youngsters at the back having to work hard. Hamish McKenzie and David Evans really working hard to try and close the gap. We've got Nick Knotton and Stu McLaren on the first wave there of Hank and Andy. But it looks like Hank and Andy are going quite hard because Louis Hutting and Alex Messina on the tail wave there, and no one's come up onto the first wave. The bunch isn't compressing like it normally does. It's really starting to stretch out. So Hank and Andy, I think, are putting the bunch under pressure, and it looks like we could be breaking down to a smaller group from now on.
Louis Hutting, Alex Messina going beautifully there. Alex Messina has been another fairy tale, somebody who really put his hand up on the international stage at Camps Drift in 2017, and he's used that as a platform and just carried on growing.
Yeah, he trains really hard. He trains under Craig Mustard and Peter Marisburg, and he's worked hard. And watching him win that medal for South Africa in the under-23s, or was it the juniors? I can't remember if it was juniors, under 23, but it was amazing to win that. It was a junior medal, sorry. So junior medal, it was amazing to watch that medal, and it's always a big jump, jumping from juniors to under 23 to seniors, and he's worked hard at it. He's become a solid sprinter, him and Louis, and they're here mixing it up with two of the top crews at the moment. It's going to be interesting to see when the camera pans back a bit where the other crews are at, but the pace is pretty hot at the moment.
So Nicky Notting and Stu McLaren go to the front. Hank McGregor looking out over his shoulder to see who's in the bunch, because the bunch is now strung out for the first time, and the pace at the front seems to suggest that they're a little bit tired of this 9-boat bunch. It was just getting a little bit uncomfortable as they head up to the top of the turn can. Now here's the women's race. Now front and center in this race right now, you'll see them right there is the crew of Bridget Hartley and Christy McKenzie. There's such history, there's a friendship, there's a long pedigree, and let's spend a little bit of time catching up with Bridget Hartley and Christy McKenzie.
Bridge, big day for the girls. First of all, how are you feeling after yesterday, because you had a proper race?
Yes, we had a proper race, but I definitely slowed it down again purposefully. I knew that today would be a really big race in the K2, and the girls are really going to go hard, and I know that there's a crew that's focusing purely on the doubles race today, so I'm expecting the doubles race to be a lot harder than yesterday.
Tactically, how are you going to go about it?
I'm not so sure. You sort of have to see how the field goes, and you've got to read the field as you go, and then slowly but surely, as you see how the portages pay out, you've got to decide whether you're getting worked over or if you're really dominating the portages. And if you're dominating the portages, you can sit for a little bit, and if you're not, then you really have to make a move to get rid of a crew or two to make it easier.
Christy, tell me about this combo. Where does this go back to? Where does this start?
So I think the first time Bridget and I paddled doubles together was Jersey. I can't remember what year, 2016, 2017, where we managed to pip Jenna Ward and Vanda Kisley in an end sprint. So I'm super confident in Bridget's sprinting ability, and I think that combination worked really well there. So hopefully we can pull it off again today.
Just tell me how the combination works. I mean, who contributes what to the combo? I mean, she brings so much experience and so much sprint power.
Yeah, definitely. Bridget's possibly the strongest girl I've ever paddled with in a boat. She's so much power from behind, so I'm going to be paddling in front today. So far, like in my world marathons, I've been okay with the tactical pressure of sitting in front, so hopefully I'm able to drive the boat nicely today, and like Bridgie will be pushing hard from the back, I'm sure. I'm confident in her sprinting ability, so hopefully if we can be into the portages first, like Bridge says, if you're dominating the portages, you can kind of relax a bit, knowing that you could potentially be putting in first on that final lap.
Tactically, do you want input from the backseat?
Yeah, definitely. I'm always like open to to some like advice if she can see something that I can't see. Definitely, I'm always like super chuffed if she can spot something coming up that I'm maybe not aware of because it's out of my line of vision. It's always cool to have your partner being like, okay, coming up on the right or left, or she can spot someone making a move that I can't see. That's always cool. But yeah, otherwise I think we've worked well together in the past, and hopefully we can just do it again.
What does Christy bring to the boat?
She definitely brings a cool head, and I really love racing with her because I've never felt stressed on a start line. So it's really nice for me to jump in a boat with somebody that I know is going to be ready when we have to be, and I don't have to be running around her telling her what to do before the race. And I also know that when the going gets tough, I know that Christy has a really strong head, and she'll give her everything right up until we cross the line, and I don't have to worry about having to say to her, come, let's go. Like, I know that when she decides to go, I'll follow, and it always works really well like that.
I think you've seen that from doozy times as well, because you can't teach somebody how they're going to react in a pressure situation, and she brings that to the party nicely.
Yes, it's really, in a doubles combination, you have to be able to read each other without saying a word sometimes. So if I feel the boat tugging from the front, then I'll respond, and sometimes if I'm pushing from the back, she'll respond as well. So I think that's really nice about the combination.
Is it a combination that just clicks when you get in the boat? I mean, sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah, I think we jumped in a boat yesterday or the day before yesterday, and yeah, we seem to go nicely again. There's obviously like a few adjustments you've got to just get used to being in a boat together again. We haven't been in a boat for a while, obviously,
Also, like, we live in different provinces, so it's hard to jump into a boat together. So that's might be a deciding factor also, but I feel like we're clicking towards the end of our little session that we had, and I'm excited to get more and more comfortable as the race goes on.
Most of all, have fun, eh?
Thank you. We will.
Thanks so much.
And there they are, front and centre on your screen. Bridget Hartley, Christy McKenzie, looking very calm, very composed, looking ominous, and
Yeah, it's actually a really exciting combination. Just listening to them talk there, and I started thinking about Bridget and how powerful she is in the back of the boat, and the fact that Christy's in the front there with just able to just concentrate on the race and the tactics and the positioning. Having Bridget in the back with so much power, Bridget just needs to focus on really just making sure that boat is smooth and as fast as possible. Bridget does bring a lot of experience to the boat as well. She's been racing marathons for many years now, so she'll always be looking around left and right and giving Christy the heads up. But as a combination, it actually makes a lot of sense. I think it's a really strong combination.
so they turn around that white turn buoy, which means they are coming into the second of their portages. That last one, there was, I think, way too much dodgem cars, way more than I expected. And I imagine they all took something away from that, and they said, whoa, let's keep a cool head. We've actually got 7 portages to get through here. The last thing you want to do is take somebody down with a silly mistake in a portage.
Definitely, you've got to give each other space. The last thing you want to do is make contact at any stage. It's a disadvantage to everyone. So they've got to just open up a bit and make sure that there's enough space for everyone, because contact, it's a risk for something to go wrong. It's better to just be clean and get out and get in and be clean around the boys and avoid that risk of contact. So I think they will be a bit more controlled coming to this next portage, hopefully.
It's also one of those unwritten laws that you don't want to benefit from something that happens to one of your competitors in the portage. And we saw a classic example yesterday in the K1 race where Hank McGregor had to stop and straighten a rudder that had been bumped in a portage. And Andy Burkett and Nicky Naughton were absolute. He slowed that group right down until Hank had repaired that rudder and it got back onto the group. And that was the sportsmanship and the level of camaraderie that exists at this level and should exist amongst all these boats. Into the portage they come. Christy McKenzie, Bridget Hartley first to the takeout. Jenna Ward's going to have to go along with Kai to purchase and wait for them to get out. It's not going to cost them too much time. The Cape Girls are out of the water pretty quickly with that rider of theirs. All 3 of them are away clean. It's far more organized, far more orderly this time, and it's a complete contrast to what we saw in that first portage, all running it fairly comfortably. Bianca and Melanie at the back of this bunch. There's a little bit of space that's been put between them and the first 2 boats. So Bridget and Christy running it beautifully, running it to the end of the portage. There's just a little gap or a little opportunity here.
The big difference there, you see now Jenna put her nose on the outside of Bridget. She had the opportunity this time. Last time Bridget put her boat down afterwards, so she didn't have the choice. But everything happening a lot more slickly this time. Bianca and Melanie are going to have to do a bit of work to get back there.
Stave the shoulder of Kaida Purchase, just letting the others know that there's a gap, there's a chance to make it, and they've gone, the girls have gone, so this could be a big break. The 2 front boats are gone, the Cape Girls are struggling off the back. Let's go back to the men. Andy Burkett, Hank McGregor into the portage takeout. Louis Hutting, Alex Messina right next to them, and McGregor and Burkett are going hard. Clint Cook, Brandon van der Vaart are going with them. They're at the front of this big bunch as they take out. Nicky Naughton and Stu McLaren are right. Hank puts the nose.
The juniors in a tricky situation. They're in the middle of the...
Stu McLaren are now right at the back of that bunch.
Hank and Andy, a bit of a gap now, but I don't think it's part of the plan. But they will make the guys work to get back onto that group.
You just want to make a little dent, and the people that are going to feel and Andy are not really backing off. They're not waiting for that group to reform. They're making everybody do the work to get back on.
Yeah, this is a very interesting situation here. We've got, like, looking at the gap, it is about 40 meters. So I'm not sure. Nick and Stu not looking comfortable with the back there. They off the back properly, but maybe they're just going to take some time and find their rhythm again. But yeah, we've got Hank McGregor and Andy Burkett at the front with Louis Hutting and Alex Messina, who currently have a small gap on the rest of the field at this stage.
I must admit, I was looking at that. There was a hint of a panic in the stroke of Stu McLaren, and our clock winds back to yesterday's K1 race, and Stu dissecting why he went into the water, which effectively ended his challenge in the K1 race. And Stu just said it was just a moment of madness. He jumped in a little bit too quickly. He tried to push and get a paddle going in, and just didn't have that paddle blade properly feathered as it went in, and look, he was in, and that was his race run. And there was just a hint of a panic about Stu's trying to get going from the back of that bunch. And as they go back to the top, Hank McGregor, Andy Burkett.
So yeah, this is a very interesting scenario here. We've got Hank and Andy together.
And one of the boats is out. Let's try and dissect. Oh, this is bad news. This is Alan Houston and Luke Durr. We saw Alan limping. He had dead leg. He's in a lot of pain. So that's not good news for Mighty Mouse. Alan Houston is done as far as Luke Durr is concerned, and he's having a good laugh about it. So let's just have a rewind. Let's see if we can see exactly. We saw Alan being so... look, Is that dead leg or is it worse? That left leg is useless.
It could be something worse. He could have pulled a muscle or strained a muscle there, but it's either he's really struggling with dead leg, otherwise it's something a bit more serious. But he's not comfortable.
So Alan Houstie's heading for the bar.
Yeah, shame.
Earlier than expected.
Back at the front of the race, we've got Hank and Andy with Louis and Alex. They've actually got a bit of a gap, but we've got a nice group of 4 that are formed just behind that, so they seem quite comfortable. And Nick Norton and Stu McLaren in that group of 4, they don't seem too phased. And it's going to be interesting to see if that group of 4 decides to close down straight away, or they hang back a bit and let the 2 boats work a bit harder on their own up front for a bit.
And we're letting the camera pan wider and wider and wider. There's actually quite a bit of water here. There's an opportunity there if Hank and Andy want to try and hurt.
It's up to them now. They've got to decide what they want, how hard they want to work. But yeah, they definitely have the ability to break now if they wanted to and break away. It's just a matter of if they want to this early in the race. But that gap has grown between the 2 and the 4 boats behind.
Louis Hutting, Alex Messina are suddenly sitting in the pound seats.
Yeah, great. They were obviously just in the right place at the right time. They had a good portage. They were in the right place. They got out nice and early. They ran hard. They put in clean and they got away. And there's a lot of chaos on that portage amongst the other boats. There was a lot going on. Guys were jumping from left to right all over the place, blocking each other in. But Alex and Louis, they got in clean. They got away clean. And that's all because they set themselves up well for the takeout. Were in the right place. And as a result, they've put themselves in a position where they can now be away with Hank and Andy.
Now we're having a look at the women's race, and there's been a marked move. There are now 2 at the front, and the men are actually catching up to the women, which is always interesting to watch. But at this stage, the Cape girls, Bianca Bevitt and Melanie van Niekerk, are being shrugged off the back of that. And we did see them putting in a hard burn to try and get back on, but there's just a resignation about that stroke rate, which says, this is not good.
Yeah, I think so. They're off the back, but they are solid grinders. They are familiar with races like the Cape Point, P East London, and the Berg River Marathon, which are long, hard races, long, hard grinds. So if the pace slows down a bit up front, it'll give them an opportunity to come back, but they're not going to give up. I'm sure they're going to keep going as long as they're comfortable in that boat.
What might happen is a carbon copy of the women's K1 race yesterday, where you'll do enough work to safeguard the 2 places in that national team, then back it off and then save it all for the end sprint. I mean, if you had to ask what the priority was, getting those spots on the plane to China, or who's going to be on the Pride Rock and who's going to be on the wooden stump at the podium.
Yeah, so I think these 2 front boats, they're definitely going to keep the pace up. They know that if they keep working together, it's a done deal. There's 2 slots for China, and that's more important than anything at this stage. So rather than risk the 3rd boat catching, they're going to keep the pace going at a pretty solid pace to make sure that it can stay as 2 boats.
So, and among the women, we saw the men's field mingling with the women's field. The Australian crew of Emily O'Rourke and Erin Blanche, who they're youngsters, they're under 23s, and they've come here as part of cutting their teeth in marathon racing. And we saw them racing great in the junior races, in the under 23 races, all led here by somebody with a very, very strong connection. So while this race turns at the top turn cannon, we can see the ladies' race being dominated by these 2 crews in your shot at the moment. On the right-hand side, Jenna Ward now sort of in a control position with Christy McKenzie alongside her. Let's just have a look at the Australians, because there's a connection between one of the girls on this boat and the Australians. See if you can work out what it is.
Well, it's not the first time it's happened at the South African Champs, but there's been a distinct international flavour courtesy of the visiting Australian paddlers, and they've become a very welcome part of this event. They're almost an extension of the family here. In fact, the family tie is a lot deeper than just a connection down under, because you'll have to explain, in fact, go back and join the dots if you don't mind, about how your journey from here to Australia came about and then reconnecting to this country.
Okay, so I started paddling in 1972, I think it was, or 73, and was one of the first women to do the Vaal Marathon in singles and doubles, one of 2 first women to represent South Africa in sprint in overseas. And then in 84 I went on walkabout, and I committed 2 treasonous acts. I married an Australian, and he's a rower. And in Australia, I've been involved in sprint until about 10 years ago, and then I moved into marathon. And what I'm trying to do, we've been working now for 6 years. I've been awesome, and Andy and Hank and Bridget, everyone has helped us so much in getting our paddlers back up to steam.
It's been noticeable watching from a distance through social media that there's a real buzz and an interest in marathon racing down under.
Yeah, we're starting to grow again. We went through a very shallow patch, and the last 2 years it's starting to grow back again. So yes, we're very excited.
So how's the experience has been here? I mean, we've been watching people like Erin race, and I think they've taken a lot out of this experience.
Yes, Erin has, and so has Emily. So Emily came 4th in the under 18s, 6th. She was beaten by 2 under 16s, which she's not too happy about. Both of them are young. Emily's been on teams before, so has Erin, but not at this level. So they're ready now to take the next jump. They're both very excited. They're paddling open women today. They're a bit scared because they're 18 and 19, so they're very young. And so we're going to see how they go.
I hope they've been made to feel welcome and part of the local paddling family.
Oh wow, we spent a week in Pietermaritzburg with Craig Mustard and NCC, Mary Milford and Brandon, and they've been absolutely wonderful to us. We do testing down there, and then we came up here a week ago, and Cradle Moon Lakeside Resort people have been awesome. They've put up with all our idiosyncrasies, and they've really been wonderful. Yeah, so thank you to everybody. It's been absolutely awesome.
Now, you'll understand this because you know the relationship between the South African sport follower and the Aussies. We love to hate the Aussies, so we made a massive exception by sort of embracing you here. Who is this, by the way? Because this was really a treason to say, coming to a South African nature reserve with this. Who the hell is this?
This is Skippy the kangaroo, and Australians will know Skippy. He's very famous as a TV kangaroo that's really smart.
Are you smart, are you?
Oh, yes. Look, he's nodding. Come on, nod. Yeah. So we brought Skippy, and we always have our little flag and the kangaroo, and we try and give the team, this year it's just girls, but give the team a sense of cohesion and that they're special. Yeah.
So is Skippy packing up and going home? Or, I mean, first of all, Skippy has survived the wildebeest and the wildlife here.
Yes, he certainly has, and Homo sapiens. Yeah, no, we almost could have auctioned Skippy and made a fortune, I think. So Skippy's going to Kaito.
Kaito purchase is kidnapping or taking Skippy.
Yeah, she's adopted him, and she's going to look after him in the manner in which he's accustomed.
Okay. Breaking news. This will be the headline tomorrow morning. Skippy is going to move into the Purchase household. Enjoy the rest of the trip, and thanks for being here. I mean, you guys are super welcome. Man.
Thank you so much, and thank you, South Africa, for looking after us. It's been wonderful.
Margie Bone, she's so invested in what's been happening here, and just Australia are lucky to have her.
Yeah, just watching this now, we've still got a substantial gap between these two boats in the next four, and I think the cards here, it's all up to Louis and Alex, really. Hank and Andy are confident. They know whatever happens, whatever race situation comes their way, they can probably end sprint and make the team. But if Alex and Louis decide to work hard here, they have a serious shot at keeping this gap open and getting a slot in the SA team. But there's four boats who are very hungry behind. They're going to be working hard. They're not going to let this. Don't want to let this get away. But it's up to Louis and Alex right now to decide how badly they want this.
That's very handy for Hank and Andy because that is a very non-threatening group at the front.
Exactly.
They have complete control.
It suits them perfectly, yeah. But here's the next four coming in with the ladies, which is actually a bit tricky. But
and it's Louis and Alex leading the SA Marathon Champs on lap 6. That is awesome. Women are coming into the portage at the same time. Christy and Bridget out really quickly. Jenna and Kaida are right behind them, and they're mixed up with the guys. They're right alongside the juniors as they run this portage. So there is going to be a lot of congestion at the pudding. Let's hope that calm heads prevail here. Clinton Cook and Brandon van der Walt putting in at the end of the portage as away at the front goes Alex Messina and Louis Hutting, shadowed by the world champion K2 crew of Hank McGregor and Andy Burkett. And then there is real traffic jam on this portage.
Yeah, we've got Nick Norton and Stu McLaren in the second bunch there who ran the portage well. The gap doesn't look too big from here. I think it is still possible to catch. But the problem with the group, the second group, is it's fallen apart a bit. We've got Nick and Stu, and then we've got Brandon and Clint, and that seems to be it. It's not forming four again, which is going to mean the average speed of the group's going to drop a bit. And we see Hank and Andy have realized that the group is fragmented, and they've put in a hard burn at the front. And this could be it. The guys are going to have to really work hard to close this move down. But yeah, with Hank and Andy deciding to go for it like they are now, Louis and Alex there, they know this is the opportunity to make the team for Worlds, and they're going to be pulling every pull as hard as they can. They're not worried. Well, obviously they would love to win, but I'm sure they're not worried about winning. More importantly for them right now is to set a very good pace and make sure that the group behind doesn't catch, and then they get a slot in the team, which is massive.
And look what's happening in the Chasey group, because the team that's under pressure here is Stu McLaren and Nicky Norton, and they haven't got the help of a group that's going with them.
Yeah, so the pace has slowed down in the second group. It's a pity it's dropped down to 2. It was 4 coming into the portage, but it's dropped right down to 2. They're both nervous to do the work. They know if they work really hard to catch, the other boat gets a free ride up to the front again, which doesn't suit them. So it's actually not an ideal situation to be in 2 boats chasing. The juniors are about to catch onto those 2 now, so there'll be 3 boats, which will help a little bit. But I must say, things are looking bright at the front now for Hank and Andy and Alex and Louis.
So drama on lap 7. Remember, this is a 10-lap race, 8 of them with portages and then that short lap. And this, having fallen into the lap, I don't think they engineered it this way, but it's fallen into the lap of Hank McGregor and Andy Burkett. They now have complete management control of the SA Marathon Champs 2019.
Yeah, they don't even really have to work too hard. I'm sure they'll just set a consistent pace. But like I said a bit earlier, it's up to Louis and Alex to really pull as hard as possible and keep those other boats at bay.
And Hank McGregor is such a wily competitor. He is so experienced, so seasoned. He has this ability to just zoom out. And so often you just see red in front of you. You just see this red mist of what's going right and what's going wrong, and you immerse yourself in what's got to be done in the next 30 seconds. Hank has this ability to zoom out and extract a helicopter view over the entire race in context and to respond accordingly. There's Louis Hutting and Alex Messina coming out hot on the outside. Hank and Andy are now deciding they're going to sit on the wave.
Yeah, these guys, this crew now up in front, they're going to be paddling their hearts out. This is a massive opportunity they have now. They know if they work hard, they can keep the gap as it is or even grow it. And they have the current world champions with them. What a better situation to be in right now for them. What an opportunity.
Suddenly they're seeing a little Shaoqing passport stamp coming into reality. I'm sure they won't be thinking that far, but it's now a reality.
No, they definitely are thinking that far. I'm sure that they know that this is it. This is their chance. They're going to be going for it 100% all the way.
Oh, there's bad news. Wayne Jacobs and Hamish are withdrawing, as we're seeing down here at the finish. But we're on screen. We're busy looking at the senior women's race. And to the front goes Jenna Ward and Kaida Purchase. Christy McKenzie and Bridget Hartley now dropping back onto the wave. They talked earlier about the experiences that they picked up in the doozy, and they first got together as a doozy combination where Christy was very young and under the radar as far as doozy was concerned. And sometimes great partnerships are forged in battle, and that was one hell of a battle. The third day of that doozy, for those of you that can cast your mind back, Bridget Hartley's least favorite bit of real estate in South Africa is called Burma Road. It's tripped her up over and over again, and properly. She absolutely loathes that little hill. And they were in a good race up against Jenna Ward and Van der Kisley. And going up there, Bridget Hartley just buckled. The legs gave out under her. She landed up sitting down under a tree and then vomiting. And she was just in a terrible place. Christy McKenzie, as a youngster, as a pipsqueak in doozy terms, picked up that K2 on her own and ran it over Burma Road. Ran it down the other side and waited for a hobbling Bridget to get back in good enough nick to be able to get down to the finish. And sometimes things like that go a long, long way. You forge friendships and partnerships that you'll never have those top of mind, but those will always be at the root of that combination.
Definitely, yeah, and that just shows the tenacity of Christy. She's really tough, even from a young age, and she's a battle like that she fought for Bridget. It's definitely created a loyalty, and as a result, we've got a combination which I think is a world-class combination. We've got two world-class combinations here on the ladies. We know Jenna and Kaita have won a silver before, and we've got a new combination which is formed over the last few years. The power of Bridget, the thinking of Christy, the tenacity of Christy, and these are two ladies boats who could potentially both bring home medals for South Africa later in the year.
Well, the critical thing about that shot, Enstott, is that the Cape Girls have dropped right out of the picture. One of the things about the long lens that we're using to be able to bring you these pictures is it gives you a context of about 300 or 400 meters.
Yeah, just watching the men's race now.
So there's a bit of a bumping and a bashing going on here. Let's rewind some of the action. Oh, and there's the chatter going on between Stu McLaren and Nick Naughton and the rest of the boats there. That's trying to work out who's busy bumping them, and Stu is not a happy camper there.
The juniors at the back there. I'm not too sure what's happened, but these guys, they need to pull themselves together. They really have to work hard, otherwise it's race over. So I'm not sure what's happened, but Stu doesn't look too happy there. There must have been a bit of contact. I'd like to hear what he's saying there. I'm sure it's he's just kind of putting them in their place, I'm sure. But these boats need to focus. They need to pull together. They've got one thing to do here, and that's to work really hard and try and close that gap. Otherwise, that's their ticket to China out the window.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, Dave Evans and Hamish McKenzie were gifted the opportunity to race at this level. Brandon van der Walt said jokingly at the beginning that their job was actually to try and disrupt. And to try and sort of get in amongst things and disrupt. But that they don't need to do. I think what you need to do is to understand the protocol and understand what is expected of you racing in a bunch. Race hard, but there are certain expectations, and you don't want to cross that grey line.
Yeah, we didn't really, it's hard to say because we didn't really see what happened there, and I'm sure, let's hope it wasn't intentional. I'm sure it wasn't. It was just a slip-up of maybe a bit of lack of experience of being clumsy, but I'm sure it definitely would have been a mistake. But yeah, we just got to keep this bunch moving fast at a good speed. They've got to work well together, and they've got to focus and really just take turns pulling hard at the front.
And as you can see, Dave Evans and Hamish McKenzie have gone to the bunch now. Maybe you sort of part of the fine you have to pay is get to the front and pull hard for the next 15, 20 minutes. And I'm sure that they're being reminded of that right now. In fact, that's exactly what the Cape guys on their right need. In fact, you can see the pedals going down at this stage.
I think probably just going for juice or something. But I think we just got to appreciate what we're seeing here. We've got a junior crew racing. They're currently sitting in third overall in the senior race, even though they're pulling now. What they've done even up to now is phenomenal. They're racing against the best crews in the country on a senior level. So it doesn't really matter what's happening, but where they are right now is really, really awesome to see the caliber and the potential that they've got for this year's World Championships.
And in terms of the dynamic of this race, they have a critical part to play, because the ability of Nicky Naughton and Stu McLaren to get back into contention is going to hinge on them and the boat on their left working together and working hard.
Yeah, you can see they're working hard, but if you look across to the front two crews, the pace just looks more controlled, more powerful. It looks a little bit faster. So I think the guys, the chasing group, they're still going to have to pull themselves together a bit more if they want to close this gap. They're not looking as fluid and as fast as this. And we think we've got Louis and Alex. We know what situation they're in here. They know what situation they're in here. They're going to be giving it absolutely everything on every single one of their pulls to make sure that the pace stays up. This is their chance. This is their chance to be in the senior team.
And the way the dynamic will work here, they're going to paddle themselves into a hole because they can suddenly see the spot in the national team, which would have been something they had hoped for, now suddenly becoming a reality. And I think given their ability to work and contribute to the front two, that'll earn the respect of Hank McGregor and Andy Burkett, who will probably be happy to take them along.
Yeah, I would like to say they're not a threat to Hank and Andy, but I don't want to write off the youngsters. They are solid. Don't forget they're two top sprinters, hey? They will have some speed. I mean, they've been training sprints for the last few years, but Hank and Andy are maybe not seeing them as much of a threat and rather seeing them as someone who's going to work hard and make sure that Hank and Andy are on the team as well, which is obviously it's a bit of a given generally. But it's a good working two crews. Those two boats, you couldn't have a better front two boats at this stage. As far as top end speed goes and wanting to work hard.
So welcome once again if you have just joined us on the live stream. This is the final day of the SA Marathon Champs at Cradle Moon Lake. This is lap 7 of a 10-lap affair. Slightly more laps than usual, but and it's been fair to say it's certainly added a lot of spice and drama and interest to marathon racing. And slightly shorter than conventional laps, but nobody's minded for a second. It's been really good fun.
Yeah, it's been a great course. The slightly shorter lap means the crowd sees the paddlers a lot more. The portages come sooner. So it's been great to watch from the spectators' perspective. And we can see that second bunch coming around the corner now. I'm sure they're going to start pulling themselves together. They're not going to give up. There's 3 crews there which are tough contenders. They're not going to give up. They don't want to see China slipping away an opportunity for world champs.
So into the portage they come. Louis Hutting and Alex Messina leading the South African Marathon Champs. Not many people would have predicted this, but Louis dragging that boat. Alex needs to pick up the back cockpit.
Something very interesting there. So normally when a guy drops a boat, the front guy will just yank, and that's when the guys break their rudders. Louis stepped back. He was mature enough to look back. He noticed that he slowed down, gave Alex the chance to grab the boat, and therefore they saved the rudder, which is very mature what he did right there.
You talk about Louis and that injury to his hand. When what he's having to do right now, one is holding the paddle. He's also got to think about that portage stroke. So he's had to adapt what he's got to bring to this partnership. And they are going to be pulling away to the front. Your leaders of the SA Marathon Champs at the start of lap 8. Louis Hutting, Alex Messina being shadowed by the current world champions, Andy Burkett and Hank McGregor. Pinch yourself and has a look, because as they pull away at the turn cans in front of the dam wall here at Cradle Moon, the chasing bunch has yet to get to the portage, and they jump out now. Stu McLaren, Nicky Naughton are the first out. Clinton Cook and Brandon van der Walt are right behind them. And there is an intensity here. The juniors are now right at the back of this group. But Stu and Nicky are going. They know they've probably got a lap or two where they are going to have to give everything into the chase. Otherwise, this is not just third, but if they can bridge that gap, they still have a chance to fight back in and look at that passport to China.
They've got a lot of work to do. Just looking across the dam now, we can see that gap is growing. So they've really got to buckle down and work hard. But what's also interesting to see is
when the juniors off the back here.
What's interesting to see, just talking about the juniors, they've been so dominant in the junior field. And to see them slightly on the back foot racing the seniors, it's actually quite good to see, because it just shows that it's not an easy step to just jump from juniors to seniors. It's a treat to have them racing. We know how good they are, but full credit to them. They were bold enough to step up and say, let's do it, let's race it. And they're mixing it up with the best guys. They've really done well. And we know they've got a very good grind in them. They could close that gap down again. But that's not the usual leg speed we see on the portages from them, which means the pace is hard for them. It's different, which like I said, it's a major advantage for them to going to the World Champs, racing a race which is potentially harder than the World Championships.
Bridget Hartley, a little slip as they come out for the portage. The ladies are taking out for their portage number 4. Chrissy McKenzie and Bridget Hartley running beautifully. Jenna Ward is trying to make this one stick with Kaida Purchase. Both girls are really running this hard. They would like to try and take control of the race as they start off on lap number 7. But it's going to be Chrissy McKenzie and Bridget Hartley who get the opportunity to put in first. Bridget making sure that the nose of their boat is on the outside of the leaders' boats. And Jenna's just got this reflex with her right hand to push the nose away, so that first paddle stroke on the right is a power stroke and puts them straight back onto the wave. So 1 and 2 are sorted at the front.
Yeah, I'm just so encouraged to see the intensity at which these girls are running at. In the ladies racing, often the portages are something where they might labour a bit, but the rate at which those girls got out their boats, carried themselves across the portage and put in shows that they when they get to World Champs, they're going to be a proper force to be reckoned with. We know they're strong on the water, but they've showed us that their portages are real quality too.
Going to head into some murky waters here because there's Bridget as a sprinter. I'm looking at the blades, looking at the stroke rates here. Something that's rippled through the men's paddling is that a lot of the guys are now using shorter blades, smaller blades. Hamish Lovell was saying that the best things he's ever done under the tutelage of Lee McGregor is actually to shorten his blades and go for smaller blades. Bridget is a sprinter who historically, they would go for the biggest power blades possible, and a lot of the girls naturally follow suit. Maybe we're learning a lesson as paddling in marathon evolves to look at those. If you're going to be on there for 2 hours, 15 minutes, look at slightly smaller blades, give you economy.
Yeah, I think it depends on the paddler. You get your powerhouse paddlers who have been sprinting for years and then come to marathon. They're so capable of pulling those bigger paddles, longer paddles through the water. And if you are strong enough, it definitely will give you more top-end speed. But the thing is, it's a marathon race. It's not a sprint race. So when you get towards the later stages in the race, you don't have the power, you don't have the energy that you would have had in the beginning. And to get your stroke rate up and your cadence up, you can only do that with a smaller blade and a shorter paddle, which is going to give you a much higher top-end speed than a bigger, longer paddle if you can't pull it. But like I said, there are some guys out there who can pull a longer, bigger paddle. But yeah, it's definitely working for a lot of the guys. I think Hank's also paddling with quite a short paddle. And that comes from surf ski. The surf ski guys do paddle shorter paddles. It gives them, they need to get their stroke rates right up when they're catching those runs in the sea, when they're catching that wind swell. And they've brought it across to marathon, and it's working. We've got world titles, one after the other, which have been coming home, and the guys are using shorter paddles, so it definitely is working.
Back to the women's race. I'll take you back to a banter that I overheard yesterday after the race where somebody said, "You're paddling with girls' paddles, Brew?" When he looked at the size of his blades and he said, "Look at the results. Just look at the results." And the lad had won his class. Back to the women's race. Jenna Ward, Kaida Purchase, half a boat length ahead. These two having ring-fenced the tickets to China. They're going to be ticking away the miles. There'll be an awful lot of pride at stake because they would prize those gold medals and the ability to get onto the top step of the podium as the South African champions.
Yeah, I think both crews obviously going to China is priority number 1, but they want to win. They came out to win. They want to believe they're better than the other. It also gives them the upper hand when they go to World Champs. Yes, we do work together as a team once we get there, but any advantage gained here in South Africa does give you a bit of confidence for World Champs when you get there.
On to lap 7 of the women's race. We'll catch up with the men's race, and I got to say, I'm kind of pinching myself at this stage. I did not expect going into lap 8, lap 9, not to have 2 boats. It wouldn't have been a surprise to have 2 boats at the front, but to see Hank and Andy sitting alongside Alex Messina and Louis Hutting, I got to say, is a real shock turn up for the books.
It is a shock, but again, they're a pedigree crew. If we go back and look at what they've done in history, and they both have phenomenal track records. I must say I wasn't expecting for it to be them, but looking at them there, of course, why shouldn't it be them? They're strong enough to be there, and they've proved it.
Amazing scenes in the background here. Tons of wildlife to be enjoyed at this Cradle Moon Reserve. It's a natural World Heritage Site. The Cradle of Humankind is just over the hill. For those that want to be a tourist, if you haven't been down there, it's well worth a visit. As they come down to their 3rd to last portage. They have 3 more portages to come in the men's race. Your World Marathon champs on the right-hand side have shot there, Hank McGregor and Andy Burkett. On your left-hand side, Louis Hutting, Alex Messina.
Yeah.
Fairy tale waiting to be written here.
Hank and Andy still working hard. You can see they're not holding back. They could obviously up it a bit more, but that boat naturally is a fast boat. Hank at the front, Andy at the back. It's just moving so well. The stroke rate, the power going into the boat, the efficiency. It just looks really good. It's really moving well through the water. So you can see why they are the current world champions.
Part of that is technical and the way you set up a boat. That looks like they're paddling the Cinco K2, and they haven't trained much together. They really haven't. Andy's now living down in East London. Hank is living in Durban. They haven't had the luxury of being in the boat on a regular basis. But the one thing Hank is meticulous about doing is setting up that boat. And that makes a huge difference in the way it trims, the way it glides, and the way you settle into it.
That is important. And this boat, it potentially could be the boat that they won the world title in last year. It looks like it could be the same one. So they know it works for them. It is comfortable. But the nice thing about an Elo as well is that you can take your seat and your footrest from any one of them and just transfer it to the next, and it should feel exactly the same. So that does give them the advantage. They know the setting. They know if the footrest at 7, the seat's at 4, the next boat they put it at 7 and at 4, it's going to feel exactly the same.
One of the things that South African marathoners have had a habit of doing over the years at their peril is taking an Elo and then converting it to a pedal setup. I think you might have made this Muppet error as well, Stott, so you might have to join the queue that have to explain themselves, but it's really not designed to take pressure on the cables.
No, it isn't designed to do that. I don't want to get too much into that. It's a bit of a sore point. But yeah, it's designed to be a T-bar. It's designed to have an understern rudder. There are ways of adjusting it to accept the pedals, but it's designed to be a T-bar. And for the guys who don't know, a T-bar, it's a flat plate that you're pushing on, and it's got a stick which comes between your feet, which you steer. So you move the stick from left to right to steer the boat from left to right. Whereas with pedals, you've got a flat plate under the middle of your foot, and then your toes, you've got a left pedal and a right pedal, which is for the steering. With a T-bar, the theory is that you've got a lot more force on your foot. You can push a lot of power onto the plate, and as a result get a lot of drive from your legs, which transfers to your hips, to your upper body, and get a lot more power. And that's why it's the choice of setup for sprinters. But in a marathon, being a lot more technical, a lot more jostling on the group and moving around, pedals can be useful because you can have a little bit more control with pedals, but you might lose a little bit of power through the leg drive. But the way these guys set their boats up, like if you had to look at Hank's boat, he's getting 100% of his leg drive. He's not wasting anything, even if he has a pedal set up in front of his boat.
So while you were listening to Anstott's confession, what was interesting about what we saw on screen is just how much fun Hank McGregor is having here. And that would freak me out. If I was racing in a bunch and you saw Hank so relaxed, and I'll draw a parallel. Rafa Nadal said in an interview that if you got onto a tennis court to play Roger Federer, and you get that moment where you come out of the change rooms together and you walk out of the tunnel, normally on cue from the TV presenter, and you walk onto the court to the acclaim of the crowd that's paid money to watch you. And if Rafa Nadal, if Roger Fed was laughing and joking and cracking jokes with you, you knew you were toast, because he was in that relaxed a frame of mind. You knew you were going to get done and you were going to get taken to the cleaners. When you see Hank McGregor laughing and bantering on the group like that, that's the sign that he's in a really good place, and it's going to take a big effort to get past him.
Yeah, I think it's very hard not to be confident. Hank's in great form, but to have the current singles world champion sitting behind him as well from last year, as well as knowing that they're the reigning K2 world champions, there's hard not to be confident. He's just come back from racing the Molokai, which is a 52k channel crossing across in Hawaii, where he had a brilliant race. And like we spoke about yesterday, he had a nice tussle with Corey Hill towards the end. He's in good form. He's really, really strong. He's fit. He's confident. And the fitter and stronger you are, of course, you're going to be smiling. And then chuck a guy like Andy Burke behind you, who's current double world champion. You can only be happy.
Here's a great shot because it gives context of the lead, and there are the leaders, the two boats, Louis Hutting and Alex Messina towing the world champions McGregor and Burkett, and have a look all the way back. That lead now is about 300 meters. It's really significant. And now also, we're just looking at the stroke rate. Nick Naughton and Stu McLaren were paddling, but there was no urgency.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's happening there. I expect a little bit more from Nick and Stu. But yeah, Hank and Andy looking remarkably comfortable here. Louis and Alex also in control. They're not flustered. They're currently leading the SA Marathon Champs here at Cradle Moon, jumping in smoothly, pulling away, taking up the pull. They're obviously good enough to be here, and they're showing that.
So Hutting, Messina, they're getting away from the portage, and in the distance you can see the chasing group, which includes The two boats of Clint Cook and Brandon van der Walt, who sitting in fourth, they'll be happy with that as it stands right now. But the team with the work to do now, Nicky Naughton and Stu McLaren. Stu McLaren hot break in the K1 race with that swim that took him out of the K1 race. And it's really not going according to plan for him on the final day of this year's Marathon Champs.
Yeah, these are two great crews we've got coming into the portage here, but unfortunately this gap for them is growing. It's they're not closing, and so even if they upped it to 100% now and everything felt good, it's going to be a tall order to try and close that gap down. So I don't think it's going to happen. But these are two pedigree crews, and it's great to have them racing here. But just a pity that they're off the bunch at the moment.
So Nicky Naughton and Stu McLaren running this portage hard. Stomach and Clint just behind them. Down to the portage they come. They really are running this well. Fast. Boat goes in fast. Stu in the boat very quickly. Oh, just gets the boat going a little bit sideways. He's not going to want to make another put-in error on this weekend at least.
Yeah,
and away they go.
If we just go back to yesterday's race, we had Nick Naughton here in the front of this boat, who was in the mix right until the end sprint, and he gave Hank a good run for money in that final sprint. Stu McLaren was also right up there until he had his mishap. Clint Cook right there until the final sprint. So these guys are not bad. They're good paddlers, and still this gap is growing. So that just shows how well those other two crews are working together, and how good the rhythm in those boats is, that they're able to pull away. I won't say effortlessly. It looks like it, but I can guarantee you there's a lot of effort going into those paddle strokes.
It's another 30k race. They will start feeling it, and the two guys that had to dig particularly deep were Nicky Naughton and Clint Cook. And you saw it in Clint because he got wrecked by cramps on that final lap, and he just fell right out of contention, which was sad because I think he was good enough during that race to have been right there in the race for the line. But you could just see from the way that he was cramping in his pecs, and his style went out of the window, and he dropped right off just because it was too much. And you wonder how much of that is going to surface in the next 20, 30 minutes.
Yeah, for sure. It does play on your mind. Does it affect them? And just looking across the dam now, you can't see it on your shot, but Brandon van der Walt and Clint Cook have actually just dropped off the wave of Nick Naughton and Stu McLaren, which leaves Stu and Nick on their own to try and hunt down Hank and Annie. But it's not looking too good for them right now.
So Nicky Naughton and Stu McLaren on their own, and their chances of challenging for that place on the plane to China are looking pretty remote from here. But the key thing is they're not giving up. I mean, they've got their heads down.
Yeah, they'll keep going. They've come the whole way here. They're young guys. They're so hungry. They're obviously going to go home very disappointed. But what this will breed is a massive hunger for next year. They know they've got the ability. They should be there, especially when they see another young crew like Alex Messina and Louis Hutting who are there. It's going to frustrate them. Alex and Louis obviously very strong, but they're going to be frustrated.
Portage time for the front women. Christy McKenzie and Bridget Hartley on the white boat, as they've done all day. They're opting to go long. Bridge is so good on the takeout here. Look at the exit. She's quick. Grabs the back of that cocker. The timing is good. They almost fall into sync immediately. Jenna Ward and Kaida Purchase also well drilled. They're going to come in for some fresh fluids at this stage. It's a carbon copy of yesterday. Jenna Ward's cap's going to fall off. See if she's got it tied on. There it goes. It's almost exactly the same portage, actually, but she lost her cap yesterday. Back in from getting fresh fluids on board, and there they go, the two leading boats emptying at the front. They are definitely taking on board. So
I was just going to say, it looks like the pumps are obviously working. There's no water in the boat, but yeah, unfortunately there is a little bit. It wasn't much though, Dave. I think maybe they're just doing that just to get the upper hand, but very little water came out of that boat. So I don't think it's going to be a disadvantage for them. That first portage, a lot more water came out, which means they may have had some kind of mishap. But when they tipped that boat over this time, there was very little water that came out, which is a good sign.
It's one of those things that you would want to take a decision on going into the portage. I mean, it's very easy to see between the two. There's no splash covers here. It's very easy to look down into the bottom of the boat and see if there is enough water. That didn't justify the stop. I mean, if that had been more intense racing, that would have been a wasted 4 or 5 seconds.
Definitely, yeah. So they decided that those few extra 100 grams were it's easier to just tip it out quickly, that they weren't under pressure, rather than pump it out over time. But what happens as well, sometimes the pickup for the pump doesn't touch right perfectly flush on the bottom of the boat, so it misses those last few 100 mils, which could be the case with their boat. So the pump is probably working perfectly, but it's just leaving a little bit behind, which they chose to tip out themselves.
It's also, if you are going to have to stop and empty, rather do it now than in the last portage, because they've got 2 more portages to come. If you've got a little bit of water in the boat, you just ignore it.
Yeah, so as far as pressure goes, this is probably the least pressure portage. The next one, it's going to be a bit hotter, and the final one, obviously there's no time for something like that. So they're just preparing themselves for that final battle.
So Jenna Ward, who over the past year and 18 months has really committed herself to learning the art of marathon racing and training at the highest level. I think respecting that she trains, and she trains with a lot of the men down here, but she's also spent the time and money and gone overseas, and she's gone and raced, or she was racing in Denmark a few weeks back. She spends a lot of her time training in Hungary, where Van der Kisley is a good friend of hers, and she's very welcome in that training group. And I think she recognizes that to be good at that level, that's where she's got to focus her time and energy.
Yeah, you've got to expose yourself to the best. For the ladies especially, like Bridget also spends a lot of time in Europe training with the sprinters, and Jen is doing that for marathon. The guys, fortunately, we are, I don't want to sound arrogant, but South Africa is a bit of the benchmark at the moment as far as marathon paddling goes. So we don't need to go anywhere right now as far as the men go. We've got each other. So the guys just train with each other, against each other, race each other all the time. And that's the level of paddling that they need to be at. So that works for the men at the moment.
Just looking at that blue boat and how well it's going at the moment, I'm just really excited for Kieta that she's managed to sort out her medical issues, because when she was battling with all sorts of medical problems, we worried about how that was going to affect her. But I think she's passionate about getting back here, and her healing process has timed just right, and she's looking full value for her 25Ks today.
Kate she is still struggling a little bit. I spoke to her after her under 23 race, and obviously concerning when she says her back and her kidneys are hurting. So that's the result of the illness she's had.
She's had hepatitis, eh?
Exactly, yeah. So it's a tough illness, and she's pushed through, and she's competing here at the highest of level. And from here on, she's only going to get stronger. So that's also encouraging for the crew of her and Jenna.
So from the women's race, let's have a look at the men, and here's your front race. Hank McGregor at the front with Andy Burkett, the reigning K2 World Champions, keeping the pace on us, but certainly not doing anything to try and shake them off, which would suit them down to the ground. If this came down to the final portage, they know what the outcome would be.
Yeah, I think we say that, Dave. Yes, these are the current world champions, but I think in the back of their mind, Hank and Andy, yes, they are confident, but they know that Louis and Alex, they've got the speed behind them. They've got the. I think it was last year in St. Francis. Actually, I can't remember the end sprint, but I think it was Louis. I can't remember who he was paddling with Hamish Lovemore. They were coming up hot up the left-hand side. They had a bit of a wobble, and they were right there. So I'm not going to write Alex and Louis off right now. They're strong paddlers. But of course, Hank and Andy, confident. They're two beasts in the boat. The boat goes so well. They've got so much power. And yes, they should win. But they are not going to be complacent coming to that.
They're not going to be a pushover. Just rewind the clock 24 hours. Hank McGregor had to fire 2 afterburners to make sure that Nicky Naughton didn't cause the upset of the tournament by taking him out of the national team. That would have given him a bit of a spook. He's not going to want to have to do that again.
Yeah, for sure, but he's got Andy behind him now, so the two together, it's another story. There's so much power on that boat. I think they could cover almost any move that comes their way, to be honest. But yeah, they're going to go into it as hard as they can. They're not going to hold back.
Alex Messina, and I'm pre-penning the fairy tale here, and I'm not preempting it in any sort of way, but man born and raised up on the Highveld here, took a huge decision to leave his home and his family roots to come down to Pietermaritzburg, where he wanted to get into what he thought would be the best training cell, that would be the best for his canoeing. Now, canoeing's not a major sport in this country. There's not a career in canoeing. So to take that decision to uproot from the Highveld, move down to Maritzburg, settle in there, managed to get a bursary to go to a good school, and we saw what he did in 2017. He did this country proud, and I think to me he was one of the fairy tales of 2017, and to see that story continuing to where he is now, where he's now leading the senior K2 Marathon World Champs and potentially going to represent South Africa as a senior. I'm not sure exactly how old he is, but it really is the extension of the Alex Messina fairy tale.
Yeah, it's unbelievable to see Alex up here. It's one thing I know about Alex is he's a hard worker. He's so focused. When he focuses on his sprint training, he just focuses on that only. He's not distracted by other things, and he puts in the work. And Louis is the same. They both train under Craig Mustard at Camp Strift, and he's obviously the training's working. They're going nicely together. Yeah, and here they are right now. Potentially, or not potentially, I think they're more than likely going to be in the team for China.
Interesting dialogue going on in the water at the moment, because Louis looked over his right shoulder just to see if there was any threat coming from behind. And Hank McGregor's response to Louis looking over his shoulder just said, "We've got this, just chill, they're miles away, they are no threat to you. They're on their own, they're grinding. You can see they're putting their head down." Nicky and Stu, this is going to be their last race of the weekend. They're going to paddle himself into a dark hole to try and give them even a glimmer of getting back into this race. But now we've got a great opportunity. There's the turn can. That white turn buoy in the background is the right-hand turn, which takes you into the portage, and it's a great chance to measure the distance. That long lens gives us the opportunity, and as we zoom out, there we go. There's Nicky and Stu in third.
It's a big gap.
It's a big gap. That's
Yeah.
350 meters as we
Stu and
speak.
Nick, they're proud. They're gonna be going for it, as you said, Dave. They're not going to be giving up. But this crew here, Alex Messina and Louis Hutting, they have gone flat out since the break, and it's going to have spent them a bit. They might be a bit more tired than Hank and Andy at this stage, because for them the most important thing was to make that break stick and secure a slot for China later in the year.
Second to last portage for our race leaders. The leaders, Louis Hutting, Alex Messina, being shadowed by Hank McGregor, Andy Burkett. Second to last portage in the SA Marathon Champs. And this is the duel to settle the senior K2 to go to China in October. Alex looking over his shoulder. Hank and Andy putting in the boat. They're not stressed about the fact that the nose is going down on the inside of the put-in, because it'll take a couple of paddle strokes and they will reform. Get a sense that Alex was just looking over his shoulder saying, here I am putting in ahead of Andy Burkett and Hank McGregor.
It's amazing. It's great to have them there. Hank and Andy still looking so powerful, so strong, that boat. You can see they'll probably sneak past quite soon on that inside and take up the pull again. But yeah, Louis and Alex, they've really worked hard to be here in this race. They've kept the pace hot the whole way through. And yeah, it's getting to the dying stage of the race now. We've got Nick Notton and Stu McLaren coming in for their second to last portage now. Still slick, out smoothly. Shame, I'd like to hear what happened to these guys, because I think this is a slight underperformance for them. But maybe not. But it'll be interesting to see if something has happened. But they're still going for it and hanging on through, all the way through, pushing through to the finish for that bronze medal.
I think both of these guys that are in the portage shot right now will, you know, when they jump back on the plane or jump in the car to go back down to Cape Town, it'll be a time for reflection. They are both in fantastic shape. They are pedigreed athletes. They are very much part of the queue to get to the top of South African marathoning, and they will at some stage, K1 or K2, represent this country with distinction. But I think you have to go back and dissect your weekend. They've done the hard yards in training and preparation. We saw from Nicky, he's in fantastic condition. He's mixing it with the very best in the world. Came up just short. And to walk away from that, it'll be a bit of a bruising for them. There's no doubt about that.
It will be, but they're going to have to pick up the pieces. It's just about choosing the next goal and moving forward towards that. It is going to hurt a bit, but they need to keep going and keep working, and I'm sure they will. There's no reason to stop training. We're very fortunate in South Africa that we've got a multitude of races to pick and choose from, and they'll keep racing, I'm sure.
Old schoolmates Brandon van der Walt and Clinton Cook in fourth place right now. They will have enjoyed this, and I think they've raced to their potential. Clint's had a great weekend. He was fantastic in the K1 yesterday, and he's going to be, I think, tantalizingly short of the podium in the K2, but he can take a lot of pride from that and a lot of heart, and I think the Gauteng training group that he's central to will certainly be encouraged by that.
Definitely, yeah. So Clint and Brandon again having a great race, but just looking at Hank and Andy here, there is I think there's a bit more effort going into their strokes now. They also want to test themselves a bit, not just the other crew, and just see what they're capable of how good. And also because Andy lives in East London now and Hank's in Durban, they don't spend as much time on the boat as they used to. So they're going to use this as a solid session as well. Try and push the pace a bit and see what they're capable of as a crew.
Reflecting on the men's K1 race, it looked like Hank McGregor was holding all the cards coming into that final turn, and Andy Burkett was tactically masterful in just putting his nose in the right place, despite the harassment from behind by Clinton Cook, and just put Hank in his place properly and never relinquished control in that final end sprint. But Andy's response to all of that afterwards is, chuffed to have won it. It's always a relief just to make the national team, but there's still lots of work to be done before we're ready to race at Worlds.
And there is, yeah. And I think we're going to see both these crews, hopefully, I'm sure they'll be the K2s going, but Hank and Andy and the K1s, they've got a lot of work to do between now and China, and they're both going to get stronger. I think Hank, after Molokai, he might have lost the top end zip that he's used to having, and within a few weeks, I'm sure he'll get that back. So once Hank and Andy get to Worlds in China, the K1s are going to be up a notch, and the K2s going to be up a notch. Let's just hope that the training can string together nicely over the next few weeks.
Hank McGregor, for those of you who know him, has got his priorities sorted for the rest of the year. He's cherry-picking what he does now. For somebody that raced every weekend and he would do all the Surfski Series races in between, he's cherry-picking what he does right now. But his big priority this year is to try and add that Surfski World title to his CV. He's won just about everything there is to win. Molokai, he's just reinforced his reputation a couple of weeks ago, but he has never won that Surfski World. I mean, Corey's always got the better of him. He was so close in Hong Kong. And if Hank was going to call it a day on his career, he would only do that once he's got that Surfski World title behind his name.
Yeah, it's a big one for Hank. I'm actually quite surprised he hasn't won. I thought he had, but yeah, it's a big thing he needs to chase. He's such a good surf ski paddler. He really is good. So it's something that definitely needs to come his way. And if not, why not this year? This year he's in such good form, and I'm sure he can do it. He's got the upper hand over Corey in the Molokai, so let's hope that's a good mental battle that he's won, and he can keep working towards that surf ski world champs in France.
And I'm looking at the composure from Christy McKenzie in the front of this boat as our front two women come into the portage. She has got many years ahead of her and so much to offer South African canoeing. She's come on in leaps and bounds, and a lot of it ahead of time. She's raced above herself in so many fields and races.
Yeah, we've had a lot of young South Africans coming through the top, guys like Len Jenkins and others who perform at a young age, and Christy's one of them. She's really showing us what she's capable of, and it's so awesome that she is so young, and she's going to keep growing, keep getting stronger, keep getting faster, and to have the powerhouse of Bridget Hartley sitting behind her, it's a formidable combination, and she's going to take a lot from this.
So they've got a small gap as they take up for their penultimate portage. Christy McKenzie and Bridget Hartley running it hard with Jenna Ward and Kaida Purchase right behind them. Two boats sorted out. What is not sorted out is who's going to be taking the gold, but this excites me in terms of the South African women's team. Interesting to hear how they've said, the South African men have set such a high standard when it comes to performing at a world's level. Now it's time to deliver for the women. Another empty of the boat, even though there's no water coming out, but safety first.
Yeah, let's hope so. Again, that wasn't much. It was a little bit more than last time. But they are, I think, hopefully just being safe. But that is their last chance to enter the boat. They're not going to get another opportunity. So just making every gram count. They got it all out. The final long lap, I'm pretty sure they won't stop on that final portage too. It's going to be a bit intense to be able to have the luxury of emptying their boat on that final portage.
So one portage to come in both the men's and the women's races, and in both cases we've got two boats that are comfortably settled at the front of the race. Chase coming from some way back in the men's race. I'm going to put you on the spot here, and I'm assuming that this is going to regroup at the end of the final lap in the women's race. Give me a prediction on these two crews as we've seen them this afternoon in that final short lap.
Yeah, I don't want to predict, but I will predict.
It's comfy here on the fence.
It's just I want to go back to Doozy last year, 2017. Christy, younger, 2 years younger. Bridget behind her. Jenna, who she is, with a strong Hungarian behind her. Okay, yes. Actually, I'm gonna dissect that even more, because Vanda Kisley, after running Burma, you're never going to be the same. So I've just taken back what I was going to say and go back to my original statement. I'm not going to pick one.
Okay, abort. I'm excited by what I see from Christy McKenzie and Bridget Hartley right now. I'm hoping that the illness that Kaida has been battling with over the last couple of weeks doesn't become a factor in the last lap. But this is the one full lap, and then we're into a portage. So we've got one long lap. I don't believe that either of these girls is going to try and make a break before we get into the portage. I think the portage is going to be run hard, and then we're going to have a blinding 3 minutes on that short lap. Let's go back to the men's race. This is the numb moment in the race, and where you've kind of settled what the end sprint is going to look like, but it's not there yet, and you're going to start running through in your mind options.
I think this will be the first time in the race where Alex and Lou are actually backing off a little bit. They've been working as hard as they could to make sure that the chasing group doesn't get them. Now they're confident. They know they're in the top two. They know they're hopefully in the team. And for the first time, they can relax, back off the pace a bit, and think about tactics and what the chances of them are beating the current world champions, which is it's a big ask. But they're not going to settle for second. They're very happy with where they are, but they're going to give it everything, and they're thinking about the best way to prepare and recoup energy so that they can at least give it a good go and give Hank and Andy a good run for their money in the final sprint.
And just stay in the moment. You can't get goosebumpy now and say, here I am at the front of SA Marathon Champs. You have got an opportunity to go the whole way. Louis, there's a great mind on Louis' head.
He is. He's very mature, and watching him race last year, he knows how to race in a bunch. He's got speed, he's got confidence, and Alex behind him is also going to give him a lot of confidence. They're good mates. They go well together. But when it comes to zip and a massive turn of speed, Hank and Andy, without a doubt, they're the best in the world currently, and it's going to take a lot to beat them. But these young guys, they're going to give it a good go. But it's going to be a tough thing to try and accomplish.
I'm going to throw a little rider into your equation right now. Louis has trained as a sprinter. He's got a sprint ethic to him all. A lot of his physique, a lot of his training is essentially a sprint base. And also Louis having gone through the hardship that he has, I think it'll add a steel to the man. I've noticed it since his comeback from that disaster of nearly losing all the fingers on that one hand with that accident, with that disaster with the bandsaw. I think it's made him tough, and I think when you really make it hot in the kitchen, he could just deliver something special. Can Alex match that with him?
Yeah, I think Alex definitely can. Alex also spent a lot of time on the sprint course. He's really strong. They both spend a lot of time in the gym, so they are tough. And there's Hank and Andy going for it. You can just see that boat accelerate within 4 strokes. They came past and they backed off immediately because they came past so easily. But Louis and Alex, again, they're going to just save a bit in the tank. I'm sure they're going to give it everything on this portage, but you just saw there one little burst of speed from Hank and Andy and they snuck past, which shows the quality and the caliber of the boat that they are. But yeah, final portage, it's where everything counts.
Nicky Naughton, Stu McLaren in the centre of shot right now. Stu looking out over the rest of the course. They've been on their own for the last 45 minutes. And again, this is marathon racing. It all comes down to micro moves and capitalizing on those micro moments. And what I'd love to do is to go back to that moment where that group of 6 suddenly became 3 and then 2, because they were caught on the wrong side of the equation there. And it can be a momentary lapse of concentration, and the consequences are massive.
Yeah, it was interesting to see that bunch split up. But here we got Hank and Andy coming into the final portage. They're exactly where they want to be. Louis and Alex also in a good position on the inside there. They're not going to get squeezed by Hank. He gives them space. He's racing fair. And we might see a bit of leg speed now for the first time. Really, we've watched Hank's loping legs. I think we see them moving a bit faster this time. I think there's a bit more in them than that, but they are still going for it. But Louis and Alex, no slouches on the portage either. They're both very, very quick.
So your K2 World Champions, Hank McGregor and Andy Burkett, running into a commanding position at the end of their final portage. Short lap still to come. They quickly into the boat. It's an effortless process. That first paddle stroke from Hank generates so much boat speed, and they're gone for all money. Now the work is really on Louis Hutting and Alex Messina. If they want to try and dethrone the world champs, they have got a massive mountain to climb, but they're gone. Short lap to come, and that burst of speed away from the portage just gives you goosebumps.
Yeah, it was such, I'd hate to have been in Louis' shoes there. It was such a tricky situation. The thing with marathon racing in a jetty, you always put your nose on the outside of the tail of the boat in front of you. But Hank's tail was just a bit further out than normal there. So he did the right thing by putting it on the outside, but it disadvantaged them slightly. Maybe he should have put it on the inside, but it's such a tricky decision to make in the heat of the moment. He did the right thing, but it definitely just got them off the tail there. And Hank and Andy didn't have to do much to get a little gap there.
These guys are good enough to get onto the small step on the podium. It'll be a tough consolation for them. But Stu McLaren and Nicky Naughton are way behind these two at the front. Louis and Alex are giving it everything in that final sprint. They seem to be making up a little bit of time. Andy Burkett looking over his shoulder saying, whoa, what are these guys doing coming back at us? You don't do that.
They definitely are coming back. I think they're about to make contact again, actually, and it's a good effort. It just shows how strong they are and how well prepared they are, but they're about to pull up onto that wave again on the outside of that turn.
And the dialogue you've just seen between Andy Burkett and Hank is, Hank, they're coming, they're humming. Andy says, and then Hank looks around and says, what? Surely not. This race is not done. This race is not done as they head up to the top turn can on the short lap. And yes. Louis and Alex are doing the impossible. They're coming up onto the wave of Hank McGregor and Andy Burkett, having been 20 meters behind, dropped at the portage. They are not going down without a fight.
No, they're not. It's obviously taken them a lot of effort to get back there, but they are two fast, strong boys, so they've done well to get back there. This race isn't over. Hank and Andy, they know what it takes to win a marathon race. They've got the advantage going around the inside of the turn, which is slightly shorter line. They're going to come out of that turn with a bit of an advantage. But Louis and Alex on the outside, on the wave, it's just a matter of how much speed they can turn on coming towards the end. So yeah, but Hank and Andy in the pound seat at the moment. It's always nice to be leading a race at this stage, and you've got half a boat length lead automatically coming into the end sprint.
There's Hank taking it nice and easy, hugging the inside line around those boys. They're turning tight, that Cinco turning really tight. Louis and Alex going slightly wider. They've got one more boy to turn, and then they can line up on the finish. Now, when to pull the trigger? So if Louis and Alex want to pull off the biggest shock in South African marathon racing in the last 10 years, they're going to have to do something special. And Hank and Andy are just biding their time. They're not showing it, but that peripheral vision is going to be watching these two lighties. And when they go, it's going to be fascinating to take it down to the line.
Yeah, I think for Louis and Alex, they're known more as 1,000-meter paddlers, so they need to kick early. I think that burn to catch up caught them a little bit. It worked them a little bit hard. But they're there, and I'm sure they're going to give it a very good go at the end. But Hank and Andy, we know how much power they've got. We know how much zip they've got. And then their acceleration is just phenomenal. So if Louis and Alex decide to give it a go, I think Hank and Andy will just up it one more notch. But Alex and Louis, they're going to give it a go, without a doubt. They haven't come out to play.
And there's the stroke rate. Alex and Louis have gone on the outside. They've gone before the world champions. The responses come from Hank McGregor and Andy Burkett. Look how quickly Louis Hutting and Alex Messina got back onto the wave after they were dropped on the portage. Now they're right side by side. Both of these teams are redlining.
They're actually coming up.
They're making up space. Can they do the impossible? Louis Hutting and Alex Messina, adrenaline charging through their veins. The world champs are half a boat length. Oh my, 10 centimeters. McGregor and Burkett take it by the slimmest of margins.
What a race. What courage from the youngsters there, Louis and Alex, to give it a full go. Working our world champions right until the line. Very, very exciting. Great for the spectators. And how encouraging for South African paddling to have so many crews coming through with such potential.
0.27 of a second according to the timekeepers.
Ridiculous.
Well, we've just seen two young giants step up onto the highest platform and deliver.
So another thing I'm going to have to take back, David, we kept saying how lucky they were to be in that situation and how hard they were going to have to work. But they've just proved to us that they're more than good enough to be in that position and fighting it out for that win.
So, wow, this appreciative crowd that's been watching this end sprint here has seen a couple of things. They've seen the world champions deliver what they came to see. But at the same time, they saw them being pushed right to the limit. Hank had to do it yesterday to hang on to that second spot and had to do it exactly again, but from a completely unlikely source, and I'm not rubbishing them out of turn.
Yeah, no, great race. And then Nick Knotson and Stu McLaren coming in for the bronze here. They've got about 100 meters to go. They've fought a hard battle. Unfortunate to get caught up in the thick of things in one of those portages where they fell off the group and lost contact. But they've raced a solid race and coming home to take the bronze medal, which is at least some kind of consolation.
And there's a big round of applause for the Cape guys. Nicky Knott and Stu McLaren, popular characters. They're on the podium. They've got bronze. And Stu's an analyst. I'm sure he'll give you a clinical and objective review on his weekend, but certainly not the way he had planned it turning out.
No, not quite what he was hoping for. I think both of them, but it just shows the depth of paddling that we have, and any of our paddlers that finish in the top two in any of our races are more than worthy of the slots that they earn themselves to go to the World Championships.
So that's our podium decided for the men. Oh, it's been a treat. Women coming into their final portage and then into the short lap. So wherever you're watching, if you've got allegiances, if you've got loyalties, if you've got any personal friendships that are invested in the screen that you're busy watching, no matter where you're watching, it's chilly here in South Africa, it's midwinter. If you're somewhere in the northern hemisphere watching and you know any of these girls, or you've made your assessment watching them race over the 25 kilometers of this race, you can nail your colors to the mast right now, because they're coming into the portage, after which there is that short lap. Christy McKenzie and Bridget Hartley in the white boat on the left are going to be getting in first, but there's no noticeable advantage over Jenna Ward and Kaida Purchase in the blue boat.
Yeah, Christy and Bridget in the prime position there, coming to the jetty first with Jenna on the outside, which means they should get out of their boat first. Jenna's got to paddle a few strokes further.
Oh, they have pushed them long. So Bridget and Christy have definitely got a micro advantage to exploit right now. By coming in first and pushing them long, Jenna and Kaida have had to wait for them to get out, and there is a gap to take advantage of here. You can see the look on Jenna's face. She didn't want this to happen. Now she's going to have to run this hard and try and close out as much of the advantage on the portage.
Jenna's been so slick on her put-ins though. She's slightly disadvantaged, but already she's in on the outside. They're getting in, and she's always pulled away on the wave. And even though they're slightly disadvantaged, they're slightly off the wave this time, but they're right in contention still. Bridget Hartley putting a lot of power on the back there behind Christy, but Jenna and Kaita are fighters, and I'm pretty sure they're going to get back onto that wave again before the end.
That's a great burst coming from Kaida Purchase and Jenna Ward, and this is what we were hoping for. They're going to get back on the wave. So it's going to be a carbon copy of the men's race. We've been treated to an awesome finish in the men's K2 race. So in a sense, we're going to have more of the same.
And just as the woman pulled away from the portage there, we've got the fourth boat pulling in the men's race, which is Brandon van der Walt and Clint Cook, who also had a great race. But yeah, all eyes on the women at the moment as they start heading up to the final turn.
Oh, a magic race for Stomach and Clint. Something that they will have enjoyed at a personal level. I think they'll find the result rewarding. Disappointed they're not on the podium. But it's been a proper race. I think when we talk about the great races in marathon over the years, they will be pleased to have played a significant part in the 2019 men's K2 race, because sometimes the races become a bit of a procession and very predictable at the end. This was far from it, and they played a part, and a very significant
and
part.
I think they'll definitely be back next year. Brandon's training hard with the Maritzburg College guys at Camp Strift, and Clint has definitely found some great form. His new training program is really working well for him. So yeah, they'll come back fighting hard next year.
You did have to put Maritzburg College in there, mercilessly, shamelessly.
Good school, Dave.
So the women heading up on the up lap on their final short lap. Bridget Hartley, 2012 London Olympics bronze medalist, powerhouse, top of her game. She's got a year where she's sizing up qualifying for the Olympics as a sprinter, securing her position. She's already won her position in the K1 women's team to go to China in October. She would love to double that up with the K2 with a paddler that she loves paddling with. They're up against this crew. Jenna Ward, medaled at the Worlds before. She knows what it takes to perform at that level.
I'm just looking at Kaita's face there and the way she's paddling. She looks so determined, and it looks like she's ready to up it a notch. She's hanging on that paddle so nicely. She's putting in so much power. Her leg drive is good. And I think they're going to give it a good go at the end. Bridget obviously being the sprinter, on paper having the upper hand, but this crew is still looking very determined.
There's so little to separate these two boats. I think it's going to come down to who's got more matches to burn in those final 200 meters as they come down. It's going to be a tactical call about who goes earlier. There's a bit of chatter going from the back seat there as Kaida gives some advice to Jenna about when they should go. They've managed to get their nose on the inside, which is really good if they can get that Nello of theirs to turn nicely, which they do. Both of those boats turning on a ticky. They're going to be back on the wave as they turn into the final couple of 100 meters.
Christy and Bridget picked up the pace a bit there. Looks like a lot more power. Jenna and Kaita still on the wave, but the pace has definitely picked up towards the finish line. And it's a long way out to kick down, but Bridget and Christy have gone hard. It's interesting to go that soon. Yeah, but they've got the power. They can back it. But Christy, yeah, they're going for it.
And when you think about getting off that wave and giving yourself clean water for an in sprint, Bridget and Kaida are sitting on the wave, and they are now trying to come out a little wider so that there isn't that little wave to climb over. That's the last thing you need if it's going to be touch and go.
I must say, Christy and Bridget, though, they are looking very smooth, looking powerful. It's going to be tough to come past them if they keep looking like this all the way till the end. But yeah, Jenna and Kaita, they're definitely going to give it a good go. And there they go. Jenna's up the stroke rate. Kaita's putting in the power. They are easing up. And yeah,
strap yourselves down, ladies and gents. It's more of the same. We've had one needle in sprint, but there goes Bridget Hartley and Christy McKenzie. The perfect response, and they've suddenly got 3/4 of a boat length, and they are pulling away. Gee, when they pushed the button, the effect was devastating, and now suddenly they've got a full boat length down to the line. They're going to be your South African champions for 2019. Christy McKenzie, Bridget Hartley by a boat length from Jenna Ward and Kaida Purchase.
Yeah, I think, again, I keep saying it, but it's so exciting that these are our two crews that will be going across to China. They are so strong. And yeah, watch out, world. South Africa is coming.
Well, you were trying to read things into the faces, and you had a poker face from both these girls, but they have been pushed right to the limit. So, and that's what you want.
They have, yeah. It's always a bit daunting when you're leading coming into a sprint, and the boat on your wash comes up level with you, sometimes a bit past you. But it takes a lot of effort to get there from the chasing boat. And when they fired the second afterburner, they just managed to pull away. And it didn't come for free. It was a lot of effort. They got their win, which they're happy with, but you can see it has hurt all of them a bit.
Christy actually nailed it beforehand, where she said, I've got the most power engine in the back of this boat. She didn't know when it was going to be needed or how much you would call on it, but when the kick came, the power from the back seat is actually what suddenly propelled that boat from a 10 centimeter to a half boat length to a full boat length lead in the space of 5 seconds. It was actually startling to watch.
And really important for Christy to set the right rhythm, because if she doesn't set the right rhythm, Bridget won't be allowed to put in that power. So as a combination, it works really, really well.
And as they said, they know this combination so well. They can feel that change in intensity. They can feel what Bridget calls the tugs in the boat, and the ability to respond without a word being spoken counts in large amounts. So we still have bronze to be decided in the women's race. And they've had a long solitary race. They were right in it in the first half of it, but the Cape crew of Bianca Bubbles Bevitt and Melanie van Niekerk are going to come home to claim the last step on the podium. Long, tough afternoon for them.
Yeah, we know these girls are tough. I mentioned earlier that they're from the Cape and used to those long races. They're used to slogging it out on their own. I'm sure they would love to have been in the mix and with the other two boats. And I'm sure they will come back next year a bit stronger. But yeah, they've fought hard all the way through. And I'm sure they'll at least be slightly relieved to go home with their bronze medal, at least, rather than... obviously the team was priority, but at least they're going home with the bronze medal.
Bianca and Melanie, that last turn. You really are caught in this limbo, void. When I mean, they packed their goodies in Cape Town to come to Joburg to win a place in the national team. By halfway in the race, you see that getting away from you, and you become a spectator to it. And there's a risk that you will just become resigned and just slack in intensity, but they haven't done that. They've kept that up throughout the race. I think they will leave the crater knowing that they were done by two better crews. And knowing the characters involved there, they'll head back down to the Cape, where they're all multidisciplinarians. They're happy to jump in a surf ski. Bubbles back for the Berg again. She's been the dominant female character on the Berg.
Yeah, I'm sure she'll be back there. Yeah, she loves the Berg. Well, I don't know if anyone can love the Berg, but the Capies, they do love the Berg. It's a tough race. It's a cold race, so this is kind of normal to be slogging it out on your own in the cold. So they probably feel right at home here at Cradle Moon. But yeah, they'll go home with that bronze at least, and like the men who didn't make the team, they will regroup, regather, and prepare for the next race. We have so many races which they can do, and they'll just keep working towards the next one.
So a couple of 100 meters to go to the finish to decide the last of the podium places. Women's K2 race. In fact, both of the races we've been treated, and two races that have provided entertainment out of the top drawer. And the culture of marathon racing, thanks initially to Hank McGregor and then to Andy recently, it's propelled itself into the popular spotlight in sport in South Africa, not just amongst paddling. And then you get treated to spectacles like that, and you can completely understand why.
Yeah, it's just so exciting. The new format of marathon racing that they've had over the last 10 or 11 years with the shorter lap and all the portages in front of the spectators and grandstands, it's just made it so much more exciting to watch.
So a big round of applause. Bianca Bevitt and Melanie van Niekerk crossing the line, securing a podium place at the SA Champs Women K2. Quick five amongst the girls. It's been a long, tough day, but they haven't shirked from the task at all. And Stott, part of our marathon committee, marathon selector. You never know coming into Marathon Champs, because I mean this is your barometer. Everybody's training. You get glimpses of it at individual provincial champs, which is normally like 2-3 weeks before. So you get a snapshot of where you think things might be, but until you've actually seen them all race against each other. Just to summarize what's happened. I mean, take us through that, and I would not have given that to you 24 hours ago.
Yeah, it's Hank McGregor, Andy Burkett. Yes, we're expecting them, current world champions. Awesome to see them racing in action, just doing everything right, looking good, looking powerful. Second place, Alex Messina and Louis Hutting. What an amazing story to have those guys. Two Maritzburg boys now, young guys, hungry guys, and not just getting sucked along for the ride. They worked hard for that. They made that gap stick. They worked hard to keep that gap going. So they deserve that second spot.
And a summary of what's happened in the women's race, Bridget Hartley and Christy McKenzie just providing that lethal sucker punch at the end to deal with Jenna Ward and Kaida Purchase. But those are the two that were comfortably clear. And as you saw a few moments ago, Bianca Bevitt and Melanie van Niekerk wrapping up the podium. So selector's job is fairly easily done. Those are the ones you want, two clear boats.
Yeah, for the seniors it's easier. It's been a bit more complicated in the juniors. It's never easy selecting the team if there's complications. But yeah, most of the team pretty straightforward to select. But we do have a few headaches to deal with and some big decisions to make. The team we select, obviously, it affects people's lives and people's futures. So it's very important that we make the right decisions, and we're going to make sure that we take the time to consider all the elements and make sure we send our best possible team to compete in China.
I think this is the inquisitive youngster that came to my door and nudged it at 6 a.m. So that's what you get when you're racing at Cradle. And I must say, before we just take an opportunity to reflect, and it's been an amazing, it is a marathon venue quite unlike any. And the marathon venues that we've now created over the last couple of years of serious marathon racing in South Africa are all very distinctive. But this one, again, is one that I think the majority of the paddlers would happily come back to.
It's such a beautiful venue. We're so lucky to come here. I can't believe we haven't heard of it before, and it's great that the marathon committee put their feelers out and looked for a new venue, and this is one that they found. I'm sure we'll be back here. And just a quick one for all the marathon paddlers who competed here this afternoon, the seniors. The medal ceremony is going to be at 2:15. So seniors, if you can just start getting ready for that. But what an amazing venue to come down here, be surrounded by wildlife, nature, South African bushveld, and just a beautiful place. Cradle Moon has really treated us well.
A couple of years ago, this was a deserted part of the West Rand, and is now the Gautengers, the Joburg people, have taken ownership of it. As much as we've taken it over as a paddling venue, and it'll be a weekly paddling venue, it's full of trail runners, mountain bikers. This is just alive with adventure sport enthusiasts. So looking forward to the day when we get back here. So I know your marathon committee hasn't made a decision about next year yet, have you?
Next year's in the Cape. I'm not sure where yet, but it's going to be in the Cape. I think it's the Cape's turn to have the race. But yeah, this place is just so beautiful. To drive 20 minutes out of Johannesburg and be surrounded by such beauty. It's amazing that half of Joburg isn't here. There's lovely sandy beach and clean water. So it's a great place to come to. So I'm sure we'll be back here. But yeah, we're looking forward to racing hard in the Cape next year. Peter Cole and his team does a great job down there with the squad and putting things together. So yeah, next year in Cape Town.
So, and thank you for your time as a commentator. I must say, before we wind it down with a review of what's happened, and we are going to go to the medal ceremonies, which are just 10 minutes away. Just a big thank you to all the followers from all over the world that have been watching this live stream. I think there's a fascination about the way things happen down here, but they've all been enthusiastic followers. Thank you for the comments. Thank you for the chirps. We really do appreciate them. Thank you to the team that helped put this whole live stream together, because it adds a new dimension and it takes the experience that we have enjoyed here at the Cradle to a far, far wider audience. So, and thank you for your time. Well done for your racing. You deserve a duvet and blankie after 2 hard days of racing.
I can't wait to get back to Durban. Tonight I'm going to be back in summer. 1 hour flight and I'm back to summer. So, but yeah, it's been a great event and great to be part of it. And well done to Washi and the DABS team, Dabulamanzi team, for putting this event together. You guys have put on a great show.
Our medal ceremony is 10 minutes away, but for the moment, we are going to wrap it up by just having a quick chat to Steve Jordan, who's been chairing an organising committee, and a large organising committee, largely made up of volunteers who've done hard yards and some serious hard yards, volunteering their time during their professional hours, chipping in whatever professional resources they could bring to the party here to make sure that this was a good event in a really remarkable corner of South Africa. So medal ceremony coming up in a couple of minutes' time, but let's go and review and take stock of what has happened here over the last 3 days of marathon racing with Steve Jordan. Steve, just rewind the clock 12 months. Gauteng had to host these champs, and everybody was puzzling how it was going to happen, where it was going to happen. Given how much has happened, you must be a happy man.
Incredibly happy. I think the best decision we took 12 months ago was the committee were really looking long and hard to find a really, really amazing venue. And fortunately, Graham Neat, the chairman of Dabulamanzi, had good connections at Cradle Moon, gave them a call, and they said they would absolutely love to host us, and came out and did a recce, and we decided if there's anywhere up here in Gauteng to have an amazing event, had to be Cradle Moon. And they have been so cooperative, helpful, and they've really gone out of their way in order to help and assist us to make this the event that it's been.
More than just a good marathon venue, it ticks virtually all of the boxes in terms of the facilities, the accommodation, the parking, the space.
It was interesting. I was chatting to Hank McGregor a little while now, a couple of minutes ago, and his first SA Marathon Champs was in 1994. So Hank's been to 25 Marathon Champs, and he was just saying this is probably one of the best that he's been to. And he was mentioning little things that you don't even think of. He says quality of water, absolutely amazing. It's probably one of the cleanest dams there is in this country. Depth of water, absolutely superb. The environment, the accommodation, the fact that it's a conservancy area, plenty of game. It's great, and there's lots of accommodation. Apart from Cradle Moon, there's accommodation all the way around, and it kind of ticked more boxes than we even realized it did, which is always a great thing to happen.
What you and the Dabulamanzi team did have to do was sort it out as a marathon racing venue, and it's taken some time, but they've really delivered, and it's taken a lot of work.
That was our greatest challenge. We had a great venue, but we didn't have any portage area at all. There was absolutely nothing. And the team have really come together. The expertise we had within the club in terms of people like Dave Hamilton-Brown, Wayne Jacob in the construction business. And yeah, they've got our takeout jetty done. Cradle Moon agreed that they would mow the natural grass down for us, leveled it out a little bit. After GCU champs, we realized that our put-in jetty wasn't quite long enough, so we had a quick 10 days to lengthen the put-in jetty, but it's worked out absolutely superbly, and it's just been a team effort from absolutely everybody. Every club member have really, really come together and just helped, get all the facilities right. Unispan, one of our club members, supplied all the scaffolding for us, and it's been incredible how the canoeing community has just pulled together in order to do all the little pieces of the jigsaw puzzle that needed to come together in order to create the picture, and it's really been special.
You talk about a team effort. This is a big volunteer base. I don't think a lot of people realize that.
It is totally volunteer-based. There's everybody over here has given up lots and lots of hours. I was working out a while back. There's probably about 1,500 man-hours have gone into this, and that's pretty impressive. That's apart from the volunteers that are here, marshalling the top boys, marshalling takeout, put-ins, and so just thank God that the Bulamanzi is such a large club that because we've probably had the services of close on 150, 200 of our members have all been here, come to the party. So it's been a true club effort, which is really what our sport's all about, which is fantastic.
They haven't hogged the limelight, which is fantastic, but you've also got a pool of sponsors that have been critical to the success of this event.
Absolutely right. I mean, our sponsors have really, really been critical, and it's not as if they've plowed cash into the event, but they've put their expertise into it for us. We've had AdReach, who've done the out-of-home advertising for us. They've done all the printing of the banners and all the printing side for us. We've had Eurosteel, who've brought their social media skills in. They helped us with the website. They put together the videos for us. We've had people like Super M coming in to just help goodie bags for the kids. Sponsors like Evox giving product. Unispan, obviously an absolute star performer. Because the one thing I learned from many years of going to the World Champs is you've got to cater for your spectators as well. So, I mean, the spectator stands, I just think, have been absolutely amazing. Barrow Construction have come in. They did all the construction work for us, assisted putting up the scaffolding. So it's been an amazing, amazing team effort. And then just to round it all off, Golden Crisp coming on board just to ensure that we didn't have any dehydration while we were on the course. I mean, here is a venue we can come and train serious marathon training. We can to host a World Marathon Champs here, quite honestly. I think bring your overseas guests here, they're going to have an experience absolutely second to none. So I think the point you make is so right. We've got another world-class marathon event right here in Gauteng.
I think looking at the comments from some of the international paddlers when they saw the Springbok and the zebra in the background all watching the marathon race, they said, I'll have some of that.
Well, there was one of the young Australian ladies who's part of the team that's here with us, walked out of her room the other evening just to go and have a look at the African sky and came eye to eye with the wildebeest. I think she's still wobbling in her boat a bit, but it's that kind of experience that you get at a venue like this that does make it so amazing. Plus, we had the beautiful hot air balloon fly past, where the hot air balloons skate past every day, wishing all the athletes to have a great race. There's just little things about this whole cradle area that is this part of Gauteng is really, really pumping, and the venue being right in the middle of a Cradle Moon it's added to the event in a big, big way.
Lastly, this live stream has also been a critical part of it because it's taken it far wider than just Muldersdrift.
Well, it has. I mean, Alpha Cam have really been absolutely amazing. Alpha Cam came on board. It was really, it was in the last 10 days we've put the whole live streaming together. And the way their team has pulled together, the assistance they've given us, not only from a technical, professional point of view, financially, they've also really sharpened their pencil to make this a reality. And it's amazing. I mean, as at yesterday, already 3,000 hits on yesterday's live streaming, and that's only going to go up. Got the live streaming today also, which you've all just seen for the K2s. Amazing, amazing coverage. So, yes, hopefully we can have Alpha Cam as part of our canoeing scene going forward, because they really, really do add value. And the live streaming brings it to life and also helps promote our sport, not only locally, but also how amazing South Africa is as a venue on an international basis.
Steve, I'm sure there'll be a time to give everybody a golden crisp, but on behalf of everybody who's here, just thank the team. They've done a great job.
Awesome. And Dave, thank you for the role that you've played as always, being here as the media man, making it all happen. But great event, and yeah, I think we were quite proud of ourselves. Thank you.
So thanks, Steve Jordan, and medal ceremony about to get underway. SA champions are out here once again, and we often see Hank looking fairly composed at the end of the race, but Hank, you guys worked. Cracky, you had to work hard.
Yeah, Dave, we put it all on the line from about 8 Ks into the race. We could see there was just too many boats, and I mean the level of the athletes at the moment racing in our country is top level. So it's hard to pick one boat and target them. So yeah, we try to mix it up a bit in the beginning, and then we could see guys were just firing. So yeah, after the first portage we did like a big burn, and we could see who was with us. Then after the second portage we put it all on the line. You know, it's a long way out from there, and you know we were in two minds whether or not we'll go hard enough to keep the guys off or make them work. So initially it was to make them work, and then I think with about 5 laps to go, we were like, okay, we're going to make this stick. But yeah, it was a great race. I mean, like I say, we worked really hard, probably way harder than we should ever work in a normal race. But at the end of the day, we're racing for a position for our country. So, you know, 2 boats across the line, at least, you know, you're safe. You never know, you know, you could make a stupid mistake, drop the boat, you need to fix the rudder. So yeah, from that point of view, we just kept it safe, and obviously we burnt matches to hold the gap.
Andy, Hank went hard early. Did you know that was going to happen? Did you just go with him?
When we were busy warming up, that wasn't expressed to me. That wasn't the plan. I thought we were just going to have a relaxed paddle and try and stick in the mix. I believe something like that was discussed, and what unfolded was completely different. But I had no option with that. I just sort of had to go with it. But I think SA champs, like Hank was saying, you just want to get your spot to race at World Champs, and today it was probably a good call because you just stayed out of the mess, and anything can happen during the race. A guy can put a boat on top of you, can take a swim. So by pulling a bit more than we should have and working a bit more, we stayed out of trouble and had a safe race.
Hank, before we get to the medal ceremony, which is starting in a minute's time, just a quick word for Louis and Alex alongside you. I don't think many of us saw that coming, but given how hard you guys were going, they paddled out of their boots.
Oh, look, for sure. Look, you must remember, Louis, he's got a medal in Senior K2 with Andy 2016, which was a couple of years back. He knows how to play his cards, and you know, we made a conscious effort, the 2 boats, and we said, look, you know, this is our trip to China. You know, let's go hard. So, you know, we knew what we were up against, and yeah, I think we probably burnt a little bit much, and they came back at us at the end, and we had to really dig deep, and yeah, but that's great. I mean, that's the youngsters coming up. I mean, Alex he's a machine. He's got a medal in Maritzburg in the juniors, and I'm sure it's not going to be long before he gets a medal in the seniors or in the under 23.
Well, coming from somebody like Hank McGregor, that's going to be hugely encouraging. Well done, guys. You can catch a breather before we call you up to the top step of the podium. Steve Jordan is with us. He's going to take you through the medal ceremony right now. Women's K2 and men's K2 at the end of 3 days of fascinating racing here at the Cradle Moon Lake, and an opportunity to round it all off very appropriately on this very special little podium right here. So the medal ceremony right now for the women's K2, followed by the medal ceremony for the men's K2. I'll leave you in the capable hands
at the 2019 South African Marathon Championships, one of the top national championships in marathons to take place over the world. Let's start off with our senior ladies who've just finished their race in the K2s, and winning the bronze medal overall is Bianca Bevitt and Melanie van der Kerk. Well done, Bianca and Melanie. And to hand out the medals, we have Kim, who is the head of Canoeing South Africa, head of CSA. Well done, Melanie and Bianca. And taking the silver medal in the South African Championships for 2019 is Jenna Ward and Keita Purchase. Pushing, well done, ladies. And the gold medal and the South African ladies K2 champions for 2019, Bridget Hartley and Christy McKenzie. Well done, ladies. Some awesome, awesome racing, pushing each other all the way. Well done. Those are our ladies K2 podium for 2019. Well done, ladies. Right. Right, moving on to the senior men, SA Marathon champions for 2019. In the bronze position, all the way from the Western Cape, we've got Nicholas Naughton and Stuart McLaren, putting an awesome, awesome performance. Well done, Nick, and well done, Stewie. Really, really great. The bronze medal for the 2019 South African Marathon Championships. Well done, Nick and Stuart. In the South African Canoe Championships. Well done, Louis. You can stand if you can, or you can measure. Right, ladies and gentlemen, that's the bronze and the silver. And in a really tight, contested race, we have the gold medal and the SA Marathon champions for 2019. Amazing performance. There we go, well done. Great racing and a great result. Don't go away because there are just a couple of, just a few thank yous I'd like to say. Firstly, to the Bulamanzi Canoe Club.